While consistency has not been the theme for the Gamecocks in 2025, we have seen Shane Beamer-led teams win games they're not supposed to win, rise from the ashes on a Saturday where they're not supposed to rise from the dead. We have seen Shane Beamer-led teams do this before. Is it a possibility that we see Saturday, South Carolina, where everything's bigger in Texas, do the unthinkable against a very good Texas A&M team? Welcome in the Wire to Wire. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and we lead off the show with the Gamecocks today as we have a big show coming your way. We're talking to Chapel Fowler in the state segment coming up in the very next segment, asking the question if Paul Feinbaum's right a little bit later on. We've got Lou Bezjak on the show talking high school football. We also are going to get into Deion Primetime Sanders at 5 o'clock, and guess what? It's Thursday, which means it's time to talk to Clay Hendricks and talk a little Furman Paladin football in hour number 4. But, Diesel, we have seen, even though this year has been an utter failure on the part of Shane Beamer and the South Carolina Gamecocks, we have seen Shane Beamer-led teams before win games they have no business winning. Could I somehow, some way, to start the show today, throw this rope around you and pull you in on the belief that maybe, just maybe, the Gamecocks shocked the college football world on Saturday in College Station?
Maybe if there's some like 80s movie hijinks and somebody wraps a big old rope coil around Marcel Reed and locks him in an equipment closet somewhere. That's pretty much South Carolina's only shot. Okay.
What?
Texas A&M. For years, obviously, we've all cracked a lot of jokes about how A&M spends a ton of money and they just can't get it done. They can't have a sustainable season. They'll never, they'll always get to like week 8 and stumble. And I don't think that's going to happen with this team. I think this Texas A&M team, for the first time in a long time, in any of our memories, is for real. Texas A&M has always been a paper tiger, right? You look back at all the different eras that have come before Mike Elko, A&M was a paper tiger. This A&M, it's got claws, man. Those claws are going to try to kill the bunny.
No paper when it comes to these Aggies is what you're saying. Tolos, again, if you just tuned in, welcome into the show. If you want to know what we're talking about in each segment, I just tweeted out the rundown. You can find that at the Cole Bryson on Twitter, on X. Again, Chapel Fowler joining us for the States segment in the very next segment. So Clemson fans, we're coming to you. But Gamecocks, Diesel, the Gamecocks did put a beat down on A&M last season. You look back and you have seen wins like, for example, last year where they took the life of Clemson to end the season, right? They took the life of Tennessee in 2022 when they hung 63 points on Josh Heupel. And then the following week, they had a huge win over Clemson that ended the longest win streak in the country in college football at Clemson. They did the unthinkable 2 weeks in a row. And Shane Beamer, even though he hasn't been consistent this year, he has provided us with some woe-type performances. And before we get into some statistics and projections and key factors to watch on Saturday, to your point, I know you joked about it, but you might have to lock one of the star players, whether it's Marcel Reed or somebody, or 2 or 3 of those players, lock them up, because I do agree with you. Before we dive into the details, I do agree that this A&M team, they almost, in a way, look unbeatable. I think this is one of the most impressive teams thus far in 2025 in college football.
Yeah, with this team, with this game for South Carolina to win it, you need 2 things to happen. You need A&M to play by far their worst game of the season. Now, It's possible. Like, look at A&M's last couple of games. Yeah, they blew out Missouri on the road. They blew out LSU on the road. God, who did they upset at the scheduling office to get 3 road games in a row? But then they played a tight game against Arkansas. And can we really make an argument that Arkansas and South Carolina are really all that different. They fired Sam Pittman, and things are not going well at Arkansas.
They're not way off.
But at South Carolina, they fired multiple people to try to get things right over the course of the season. Hadn't been the head coach, but Arkansas almost got them. They gave up 42 points on the road at Arkansas. They had to score 45. This offense is incredibly consistent. It's the defense that every now and again can be schemed, can be gashed, can be hurt. So is it possible? Is it possible that A&M plays a bad enough game defensively that South Carolina could hang in? Yeah, but also, do you trust South Carolina's offense with that terrible O-line and no time for Lenora Sellers to be able to get that done for 4 quarters on the road?
And Diesel, when you bring up that point of if South Carolina were to win this game, you're going to have to rely on A&M to have a very bad off night. I want to be clear on something. When you have an off night and you're a football team, especially in college football, a lot of that can be self-inflicted wounds, Diesel. A lot of that can be what you just talked about, A&M just not looking sharp. A lot of that can also be you're not at your best because South Carolina's playing you really, really well, right? Football is a team game, but at the end of the day, it does come down to what? It comes down to one-on-one matchups. And if South Carolina can perfect and do their job with a one-on-one matchups well enough for A&M maybe to your point, to have a little bit of a trip up, but also put a little pressure on them on their home turf, a lot's going to have to go wrong. A lot's going to have to go right.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, this is not an FCS Gamecock team. Like, they have competed, and I know a lot of Tolos out there might be saying, you guys are idiots. South Carolina Diesel's been in just about every game they played.
Well, here should be the plan, okay? I don't know how much NIL money South Carolina has laying around, but maybe they should find out who all the Texas A&M stars are dating. Call them up and say, hey, we'll give you $25,000 a pop to break up with them. Ooh. We want all of them sad, crying, tears in their beers, sad. And then maybe we can get in their heads enough. And you can get back together with them on Sunday. That's fine. But just break up with them, get them sad.
Emotional distress is what you're wanting to cause there. And Brian Kelly would probably say that, LSU's looking for some of that too. Let's go to the phone lines. Jersey Joe wants to weigh in. This is a South Carolina team. Jersey Joe, I want to hear your thoughts on this game and what else you have on your mind. But a South Carolina team, an offense that's 16th in the SEC, an A&M offense that's 4th in the SEC, averaging 459.8 yards per game. What are your thoughts on this one, Jersey Joe?
Well, everybody knows it's the offensive line. If they had a decent line, I think they could have done something this year as far as getting their running game going.
Yeah.
Phase on and out of the way. I mean, you got the talent. It's just not being used.
Yeah, I mean, the hope. Sorry, Joe, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Sellers. You can't rely on Sellers every play,
Yeah, and Diesel and I have said a million times, a bad offensive line will make the rest of the team look bad, to your point.
But I mean, wear them right out.
And to Joe's point there, these are talented guys. I would be shocked if any of them are 2-stars, right? They're probably all 4- and 5-star guys. There might be a 3-star guy in the bunch here, but they're talented, okay? And maybe after, how long has it been? 3 weeks, 4 weeks of Sean Elliott being the offensive line coach, maybe this is the week that it clicks.
And Furry,
calling plays, running things a little bit differently there. Maybe it just clicks, and that's kind of, you're hoping for that catastrophe for things to happen and just all of a sudden, the lights, the clouds part and the sun shines down. That's kind of South Carolina's hope this weekend.
How do you see it playing out, Joe?
I think if the game was in Columbia, I think there'd be a better chance.
Okay.
But being that's down in Texas, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
But my main call was to get my upset pick in.
Let's go.
I'm going with tonight's game, actually.
Who you got, Joe?
I'm going to take Troy plus the 12.5 over Old Dominion.
I think it's worth 10.5. It was locked in. Has it moved a little bit? Or was it 12.5 yesterday?
Yesterday it was 12.5.
I'm going to look that up just to be sure.
By the way, Tolos,
10.5 yesterday.
Get those upset picks in.
You still want to roll with that one, Joe?
Yeah, 10.5 sounds good.
Okay.
You the man, Joe?
All right, guys.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, bud.
Phone lines are open. You can get in and give your opinion on South Carolina as well at 844-326-3663. The Hub City Spartan Burgers text line is open. There's 45 Tolos watching on the stream where you can watch the show Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Diesel, here's where I kind of struggle. The rock in the hard place, okay? South Carolina's averaging 19.7 points per game. A&M's they're scoring in the realm of 37.8 points per game. South Carolina's their offense has been underwhelming, a large part due to what Joe just talked about with the offensive line. The sacks allowed have been one of the biggest glaring issues. The scoring inefficiency, one of the biggest problems, right? A&M's defense, man, they bring pressure, and I think that's one of the matchups, the game within the game. You know, when you talk about this matchup on Saturday, if we're talking about a South Carolina offensive line that hasn't been steady Eddie, that does give you a little bit of concern, you're looking at A&M defense that brings a lot of pressure. They were at one point this season first in FBS in sacks. So, like, I don't know, you know, you can be a mathematician here. You can prognosticate however you would like to here, but a team with A&M's defense that gets a lot of pressure up front, a very aggressive back seven against the South Carolina offense that has struggled. Yes, you brought up Sean Elliott. You brought up Mike Furry. Maybe that's enough to give this offense a little bit of life because they've been putrid at times. But doesn't that just concern the heck out of you when you hear those numbers and just how aggressive A&M's defense is?
Yeah, it's they're pushing a rock up a mountain. This is going to be a really tough slog for South Carolina. And maybe that means, you know, at this point with bowl eligibility on the line, could we see one of those weeks where Shane Beamer pulls out these weird trick plays, tries?
I think you got to try everything. Yeah.
Because if you lose the game, your season's over, right? You still have Clemson and Coastal coming up, and you could beat Clemson, and that might make you feel just a little bit better about yourselves. But you've got to do everything you possibly can. So, I mean, I don't want to see Shane Beamer punting on the A&M 40-yard line. I want to see aggressiveness. And if you go down swinging, you go down swinging. But don't be conservative, okay? I need to see trick plays, flea flickers, double reverses, hook and laterals, whatever you got. Come on, Shane. Let's make this game fun. Pretend like we're playing on PlayStation.
Well, the reality of it is, Diesel, if somehow, some way you could do the unthinkable and knock off A&M, then you say, look how we could end the season. I know it's been a horrible year.
True.
But you could go beat Coastal, talking about 2 in a row. Then you're hosting Clemson coming off of 2 straight wins. Hey, look, this
Clemson
season
stinks.
They're not great, and this season stunk for South Carolina. But even though the season stunk, if you could say, hey, we won 3 straight to close out the year against A&M, Coastal, and Clemson, you do feel a little bit better. I know that doesn't make or break the season. Now, here's a couple of games within the game to watch, Diesel. A&M's run game versus South Carolina's defense. Their defense, the Gamecocks' defense, hasn't been horrible this year. But we talked about yesterday with Bill Bender, team's inability to run the football. Problem is A&M ranks pretty high in rushing yards. South Carolina vulnerable against the run, 153.7 yards allowed per game, which is 14th in the SEC. I look at this run game of A&M as my first X factor to watch and say, okay, if A&M can't establish the run early, Diesel, I think it's one of those games where it feels like the tempo is in favor of the Aggies, and it's just like, South Carolina can't catch their breath. They have to get pressure up front. They have to stuff the run game on the interior, and I think that's one of the biggest areas to watch. How big's Dylan Stewart going to be on Saturday? That defense, I think that's a big part of it.
You know, I know Dylan Stewart is not happy, and he's made this public. Okay, I'm not just coming up with this out of the ether. He's made it public that he's not happy with the numbers that he's getting, and that's because he's getting double teamed. And offensive lines are respecting him, and they're double teaming him so that he can't get to it. Still, man, you got to get there. You got to get to the quarterback. That's your job. That's why you're there. That's why you're the number one guy. That's why you're making a lot of money in NIL. You've got to figure out a way.
Yeah.
Or you got to help the D end on the other side get to the point where he is just as double teamable so that you have an opportunity to get one-on-one matchups. I know that Dylan Stewart's going to be playing in the NFL one day. But if you want to rise up those draft boards and be a first-round draft pick, you got to get numbers despite the fact that they're double teaming you.
He's going to have to.
And that's it's a tough thing to do. But It is what it is. Here's the thing, Cole. I just had an epiphany. I had a thought.
Mm-hmm.
If Shane Beamer really needs to motivate this team to win, I got the idea for how he does it.
Okay.
It's the same motivational tactic that they use on us here at Odyssey. Pizza party.
Oh,
you win the game,
Dabo
you
did
get
that
a
one time.
pizza party. How about that?
yeah, I think they might need a little bit more than that, but it's a good start, I guess.
Come on.
I guess
what would
it's
you
a good
not
start.
do for a nice, hot, cheesy slice of pepperoni?
Well, I think Beamer would probably say, hey, we'll do a lot more than that if we can beat A&M, right? Hey, I'll also look at South Carolina's Lenora Sellers, the dual threat ability versus A&M's front. Diesel Sellers, you go back to last year against A&M. He had big plays against this A&M defense. Their pass defense is solid, 5th in the SEC in passing yards allowed. So you look at this matchup, and again, it's kind of repetitive here. You look at these games within the game, the matchups within the matchup, and you think, oh, man, A&M's just better than South Carolina. But even though A&M's pass defense is solid, you might feel like Lenoris's big play ability, the dual threat, the legs, much like he did last year, Diesel, if South Carolina wins this game somehow, some way on Saturday, you almost feel like, in a way, Lenoris is going to have a big, big plan and a big, big day on the ground. You also look on the flip side, Diesel, at A&M's offense, wide receivers they have, the tempo they play with. I mentioned the run game. Marcel Reed, over 2,000 yards, 19 touchdowns. He has an exceptional wide receiver group. I don't know that South Carolina has an exceptional wide receiver group. Concepcion and Mario Craver are very productive. The problem is South Carolina, they give up 190.6 passing yards per game. Going back to rhythm and tempo, if those receivers and that run game gets involved, I think it's going to be a long, long day for the Gamecocks, which leads me to this final point. With all that being said, what's in football, Diesel, we talk about it at every level, what's the great equalizer? Turnovers. South Carolina, their only way, in my opinion, that they can win this game Saturday is to force turnovers.
They might need like a +3 kind of
They
day.
need something. They really do. They forced 15 interceptions, 3rd in the SEC, the Gamecocks have, which despite their struggles, Diesel, is not bad. A&M's got to protect the football. The turnovers, I believe, are what could spark South Carolina even as the underdog in this game Saturday.
So your point there about Lenora Sellers having to put this team on his back, where does that, in your mind, jive with the idea of you don't want to have him do too much? Because if we all know that the O-line isn't great. We know that they have some pretty decent wide receivers, and if Lenoris can buy himself some time, he can create. So if you're Shane Beamer, if you're Mike Furry, how do you kind of find that balancing act between let the plays come to you, let things develop, versus trying to do too much and then putting yourself into a position where you take big sacks, you throw picks, whatever it may be?
I think you have to put Lenoris in manageable and easy and favorable situations to answer your question, because South Carolina, Diesel, has given up 34 sacks. That's one of the worst statistics in FBS, 34 sacks. So when you talk about managing Lenora Sellers, Mike Furry has to put him in manageable and favorable situations by getting the ball out of his hands quickly, Diesel. We see Lenoris way too often holding on to the football, holding on, trying to make a play. This offense Saturday against A&M has to be designed in which South Carolina and Lenora Sellers can get to their points, routes, trees, everything so quickly, get the ball out of Lenoris' hands as quick as possible, because this pass rush, this defense that we talked about, if Lenoris holds onto the football for a long time Saturday, I think it's going to be a long day.
Tolo Sean, we see you. Jersey Joe, Puppy Monkey Baby, Silly Gooses, Canes Transplant, we see your upset picks. Why don't some of y'all call into the show? I want to hear what Puppy Monkey Baby sounds like. What does somebody who goes by the name Puppy Monkey Baby
That's a good point.
sound like? Call into the show. Not in the next segment, because we have a guest on in the next segment, but call us at 844-326-3663. Join the conversation. We'll flip to the other side of the Palmetto rivalry, talk about Clemson with Chapel Fowler of the state newspaper next. Well, Clemson has an opportunity, Cole, to get back to even this weekend. Tomorrow, as a matter of fact, 5-5 would be the goal with a win, sitting at 4-5 right now, coming off a 24-2 win against the Florida State Seminoles. To break it down and to talk about this game against Louisville tomorrow night, we go to Chapel Fowler of the State newspaper. Chapel, Clemson's defense, has been porous, would be maybe a little generous to call it, maybe like a hula hoop and with a fire hose going through it. Over the course of this season, was the performance that we saw 10 points, holding Florida State to 10 points. Is that a get right game, or do you think Florida State was just that bad?
Good to be with you guys. I must add, so I'm en route to Louisville. If anyone ever doubted my dedication to this business, I'm coming to you live from a Taco Bell parking lot in Danville, Kentucky. Got some chicken quesadilla in me, a little stop along the way, about 90 minutes out. So I've been working at it. So I was happy to come on with you guys and get some time off the road. To answer your actual question, sorry. I think Florida State did them a lot of favors. I saw a cut up going around, or maybe it might have been some GIFs within a story that Larry Williams did where he kind of took some plays from the FSU game, just showing the number of open receivers that missed passes, or where Tommy Castellanos threw it high. There were 3 or 4 or 5 plays in that game where those coverage busts that really doomed Clemson against Duke reared their head, maybe not in as bad of a way, but in what could have been very damaging fashion. And FSU did them some favors by dropping those passes. And Dabo said as much. It was a step forward for the defense, but it was not perfect by any means. I think his wording, I thought it was fair. He was like, you know what? We had some busts, but we got some breaks, and we haven't had many of those this year in key moments. So I hope they keep turning our way. So that's kind of the way you have to think about it at this point with a flawed unit. So, it's better than the alternative.
Chapel Fowler, the State newspaper, joins us in the State segment. We talk to him and Jordan Kay every other Thursday at this time. Chapel, when you look at Louisville on Friday night, do you believe that Clemson's game plan with what their coaching staff is doing for tomorrow night's game against a solid Louisville team is much different than it would have been, let's say, if Clemson's season were to have gone as planned and they were still in the national championship hunt? Or do you smell desperation? We talked about this in the very last segment with South Carolina, maybe unloading the clip against A&M this weekend. Do you think the game plan changes much when your season has gone the way it has?
I think it has to a little bit, because you're playing for something different, but in a lot of ways it's a lot more important. Not, of course, in terms of a championship context, but this is a team playing for pride and to avoid being, the first Dabo team since 2010 with a losing record. And they've gotten, a lot of crap thrown at them this year, and a lot of it is deserved, maybe not all, but most of it. They've really fallen on their face in a lot of ways. And here you have a primetime Friday night opportunity. I had to look this up. This is the first ranked team that Clemson has played since LSU in the opener, which feels like forever ago. It's the first game Clemson has played when either team has an AP ranking since they went down and lost at Georgia Tech, which also feels forever ago. So, it's the ACC. You don't get a lot of opportunities like that. Usually Clemson is the ranked team in those opportunities. So, this is a hostile environment. They're doing a blackout with their jerseys. It'll be a fun one. So, my thing is why not into the clip? I think Carolina should do that against A&M. Clemson should do that against Louisville. Your seasons have obviously not gone as planned, but you both have an opportunity to, get some sort of statement win, diminished statement win, you might call it, but why not? So I think it should change a little bit. If I'm Clemson, I would do that.
Chapel, we talked all off season leading up to it and through the better part of this season that, Clemson's defense is loaded with NFL draft picks, some of them first-round draft picks, looking at, Avian Terrell and TJ Parker and Peter Woods. Do you think any of those guys, and maybe I'm asking you here to project what scouts would think, do you think NFL scouts are seeing the overall performance of this team and maybe are moving these Clemson guys down their draft boards a little bit? Is it possible that any of these guys fall around lower than what we all thought they would go?
I think it's absolutely a possibility. I'm not communicating with scouts a ton, but I do read a good bit of mock draft stuff, as I'm sure y'all do. And what I've seen, whether from Dane Brugler, NFL Network, NFL.com, all these sites that kind of do that, ESPN, is I think the phrasing that someone used recently is scouts are closely watching. I think this is in the Athletic. Scouts are closely watching to see how this season ends for a Woods, for a Parker, for a Terrell. I think of those three, I'd probably say Terrell has had the best year, just like objectively, but by his standard stats, everything, advanced metrics, not perfect, but pretty solid. Those two defensive linemen especially, I think they have enough talent and potential to where a bad season isn't going to drop them to like middle second round or anything. I think, if someone saw them sitting there at 20, they'd be ecstatic, but I think it is going to impact, or it can impact their overall. Peter Woods is not being projected at number 1 overall anymore. Let's put it that way. Parker is not being projected at number 3 overall. And of course, some of that is the defense around them, but I think they've put some stuff on tape that scouts are maybe not as happy with as they were last year, that dominant sophomore year for both of them. So I think this is a big 3 games. We're talking about why these 3 games matter, down the stretch still. There's another reason. Like, a lot of these guys are playing for draft stock also because they put themselves in position where they need to have a strong finish and good tape against Louisville, Furman, Gamecocks in order to keep that lofty projection that they had heading into this year.
Well, to that question, Chappell, do you think it's still a foregone conclusion that these guys that are the guys that are juniors, they all go off to the NFL regardless, or is there a chance that some of them come back for one more just to improve that draft stock, get themselves back up into that top 10 status?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that's one of the more interesting ones as we come down the stretch here, just given how the season has gone. My lean for that stuff is always just that if, a guy feels like he has a solid opportunity, a solid slot, you kind of just go when that happens. Like, if I'm in somebody's shoes, that's what I would do. You never know if, a debilitating ACL injury is going to come the next fall in college preseason camp. The guaranteed money is important. It's life-changing. I understand all that stuff. And I think you've seen with Clemson, even after a guy maybe has, not the most amazing junior year. I think about Miles Murphy a few years ago. He did not have a great junior year by any means, but he still got drafted pretty high. So my guess on those 3 defensive guys is they'll all still go, but I think just given how the season has gone, it opened up the door like a little bit slightly. NIL is part of that too. But also part of that is all those guys got paid pretty well, and 2 of them specifically on the defensive line maybe aren't performing up to that level. So maybe that plays a role also. But my lean is they'll all go. But again, I do think the door is slightly open, maybe 10% or something, if you want to put a number on it, 5%, 8% for at least one of them to at least consider running it back one more time.
Chappell, when you talk about those guys on the defensive front for Clemson, man, a big storyline, maybe the biggest in my opinion, Saturday is what happened to Isaac Brown of Louisville against Virginia Tech. I mean, you're talking about a guy who went for $150 against Clemson last year and's been a really solid running back. And obviously that's a big, big blow to Louisville's offense. Do you feel like that kind of levels the playing field when you look at a Tom Allen defense that has struggled in recent weeks?
Yeah, I was sitting there last night when the report came out, and I was like, "Oh, I guess Isaac Brown's healthy." And then Louisville has made a mistake and mistakenly not had him on the report. Not any like devious stuff there, just a straight up error. Because Brahman said they weren't expecting him to play, so that's what I anticipated. But the thing is, like, his backup, who's also a Brown, K'Wan Brown, has been really good too, and their total like offensive stats for rushing yards per carry, all this stuff has been really good. And it was mostly Brown, Isaac Brown, who torched Clemson last year in Death Valley, like you mentioned. But like, they've got some dudes around him. They've got some good receivers. I think, regardless of who their running back is, who their quarterback is, if it's Miller Moss, if they shake it up and go with somebody else, because he's kind of struggled. I think their identity is, start with the run. And in their 1-game sample size with this similar offense and scheme and personnel against Clemson last year, they did that and just torched them. I looked at the stats yesterday. I think it was like, 7.8 or maybe even 8 yards per carry that Louisville got last year. And I remember Dabo just being disgusted in that postgame. That was kind of the first time that I truly felt like, okay, what's Goodwin is not going to come back after this year, just given how Dabo talked in that postgame. So I think Louisville from last year has a pretty similar script that they'll follow, and it's up to Clemson to stop them.
Chappell, I mean, obviously you would expect Clemson to mix it up. It's defensive looks, whether they're going to hang back and play more zone, if they're going to play man and send some guys after Miller Moss. But, you said it. He's been fairly inconsistent and just not impressive, really, for Louisville. 11 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. just doesn't jump off the page there. But if you had to, put a lean on it either direction, would you expect Clemson, especially with the pass rush, to come after Miller and be super aggressive, maybe try to pick him off early a couple times and put this game away early, which also leaves your DBs out there on an island? Or would you expect them to hang back, play a little more zone, and let the game come to them?
I would lean the first option, dialing it back early, seeing what you can do, trying to force a turnover. Those turnovers played a big role against Florida State. I know they've gotten some better pressure relatively in recent weeks. They've done a lot of those 3 defensive ends on the field at the same time packages that have been successful. I think more than anything else, like this secondary, even there have been some bright spots and they played better against FSU, but like this is just not a super well communicating group. And my thought is, the more time they're on the field, the more snaps or the more seconds per snap, like probably the worse it goes. So you've got a quarterback in Moss who's maybe not going to break off a run or go crazy and extend a play like some of these other more superhuman, slippery guys they've played in recent weeks, whether it's Mensa or Kevin Jennings or Castellanos. So I think you should go after him and see what happens. Again, that does challenge your corners, though, and they've been iffy in those situations. But I think the less time your DBs are having to cover, especially against that good Louisville receiving core, the better.
Chapel Fowler, the State newspaper, joining us in the State segment every Thursday at this time. Chapel, do you believe that Graham Neff's tweet last Saturday was a vote of confidence in what he saw on the football field?
I think it was an acknowledgement of how well fans showed out in a season that's been anything but ideal for anybody. I think that was kind of less his hat tip or vote of confidence for the football team and their operations, and more just like, as much as he could directly say to fans, like, hey, this season has been a mess. We want to get it fixed, but thank you guys for still packing out this stadium and doing what you did. I thought that was an interesting tweet. I think he's very smart and calculated, just like Dabo said this all the time about Dabo. Like, Dabo doesn't say anything or post anything by accident. Graham Neff's the same way. So I think there's obviously intent behind that, but I do think that was a lot more angled toward fans who really just stuck it out and made that atmosphere really impressive for a 3-5 team.
Talking to Chapel Fowler of the State newspaper. Chapel, I thought there was a play, I want to say it was deep in the second quarter against Florida State. It was a defensive pass interference, just another awful call that I thought Dabo Swinney was going to be itching for another $10,000 fine. Ultimately, it didn't happen. He didn't go after the refs in the same way. But do you know if Dabo actually sent the first $10,000 fine to the ACC in the form of a big bag of pennies?
I do not know for sure. I'm going to lean no. I'm going to say that someone probably talked him out of that. I think he was just joking in the first place, but yeah, he was royally ticked off, but I don't think that happened. I might need to FOIA and see what I can find out about that.
All I can picture was, I don't know if you're a Seinfeld fan, there was the episode where Kramer was walking around with cargo pants filled with pennies, and that's what I thought is Dabo going to go to the bank or to the post office like that and just throw a big old sack of pennies on the table, said, here, mail it to the ACC offices?
Yeah, he avoided another one against FSU. I think you saw him kind of hold his tongue mid-game and post-game. He kind of emptied the clip after that Duke game. And I think for a good reason. If there's any moment to really rally the troops after one particularly like iffy call, like that's the one to do it for. So I thought that was kind of his one time to rip him. He usually has one pretty notable instance of just ripping the refs. And that was kind of his shot in the chamber. And I think it reverberated. I think people heard that. There was a lot of national consensus that he was headed in the right direction with what he said about kind of nationalizing and more formalizing the ref structure for college football.
Chapel, what do you make of the ACC? I mean, you're talking about a Louisville team that Clemson's playing tomorrow night that's 7-2, but 6th in the ACC because of two crucial losses, one in overtime to Virginia, one to Cal, also in overtime. This is a Louisville team that's a couple of plays away, to use a Daboism, from being undefeated here in 2025, yet the ACC is a logjam at the top. Your thoughts on who comes out on top of that logjam?
Yeah, I just love the no divisions thing that allows us to have this logjam and all these awesome, potential opportunities and elimination scenarios. One thing I wish the ACC would do is like publicize this stuff. Like I wish they, heading into this week, gave us like a list of here's who's still in the running, here's who needs to do this to get in, here's what can happen this week. Like everybody's relying on these tiebreaker websites, and I did a lot of that last year when Clemson was kind of in that logjam with Miami and SMU. I think the Big 12 does a good job of that, like really publicizing, here are all the crazy outcomes that can happen. That would be a fun way for the ACC to drum up interest about what's kind of been a less than ideal, like cannibalizing of ourselves moment. I think Georgia Tech is getting doubted a little too much. I think the fact that they were idle after losing probably hurts them a little bit. It did in the CFP rankings. But if I had to guess a title game, I'd go probably Georgia Tech and SMU, or maybe, let's go Georgia Tech, SMU, and I'd take Tech to win it. I'd have to look at who has the second best chance to get in after Tech, but sitting there with one loss, I think they'll run the table. I think they're a good team, and I think they'll end up getting the ACC's auto bid.
Chappell, to that point there, I did see a scenario somebody presented of Georgia Tech versus Duke in the ACC championship game. And if Duke were to beat Georgia Tech, that might push them so far down the line that maybe no ACC team gets in, because there's no guarantee that a Power 4 conference gets a team in. It's assumed, but there's no guarantee. It's the 5 highest ranked conference champions get the guaranteed spot. So, I mean, it's possible that you see 2 G5s in there, like a USF and a James Madison. Is there any scenario in your mind, or is that complete and utter crazy talk to say that the ACC could possibly not get a team in at all?
I think it's mathematically on the table, so it's not crazy talk. I don't think that will happen. If you just look at, what the CFP values and metrics and all that stuff, I would imagine even if the ACC title team is Duke with 4 losses or whatever, that resume will stack up favorably versus, like the Sun Belt champion or something. I mean, shoot, last year Clemson was the lowest ranked conference champion. They lost out on a first round bye to what? The Big 12 team in Arizona State and the Mountain West champion, Boise State. So, we've seen already how, these Power 4 teams or these conference champions are getting in with an automatic bid, but that doesn't guarantee a first round bye. And obviously they've changed the setup with that now to where it's just straight seeding. So, I mean, it's a fun alternative. I think the fact that we're at that point does not reflect well on the ACC itself, and probably speaks to why they need a big brand like a Clemson or a Florida State or Miami to really lock in and turn things around, which obviously has not happened this year. But yeah, I don't think JMU is going to beat out the Devils, but if it does, that would be an all-time Twitter joke for the rest of Phillips' tenure.
Chappell, you're the best, man. As always, appreciate the heck out of you, and we'll talk to you real soon.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
You too. Chappell Fowler, the state newspaper in the state segment. We're also bringing a counterpart on in the next hour to talk some high school football. Lou Bezjak coming up. But Diesel, we've got to get to the top headlines, the top stories in sports. Our Daily Wire's next.
Bryson on the Fan Upstate.
Well, it's time to get to the stories that matter, the headlines, and on this show we call them Daily Wires. Bzz. It's the buzz around the sports world. A lot to get to today on a busy Thursday. Man, let's start with this. Last night, college football, Central Michigan, a barn burner here. Diesel defeated Buffalo 38-19. I got another one for you. One more. No, actually two more. NIU defeated UMass 45-3. And Toledo defeated Miami of Ohio 24-3.
Good God, putting the meh in action.
Yep, that's why they put it on Tuesday and Wednesday,
Dear
right?
God. I feel really bad for those teams and those fan bases. You tune in, you watch the games, there's nobody there. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night games.
Fan bases.
No one shows. No one shows up. They've sold out their fan bases for the almighty television dollar, and nobody goes to their games.
At least they're getting paid by ESPN, right?
They get it from somewhere.
Tonight in college football, maybe a good game. Troy travels to Old Dominion 7:30, but Old Dominion favored by 11.5 points, a large spread, and I think that one's even changed as of late. Jersey Joe and you were talking about that. Also tonight in the NFL, the Jets are in New England, and the Patriots are big favorite tonight, Diesel. Favored by 12.5 points are Drake May's New England Patriots. The NCAA has placed Michigan State football on 3 years of probation for violations that occurred during Mel Tucker's tenure as a coach. The violations occurred due to the participation of 3 ineligible players. Now the Spartans will vacate all 0 wins from last 3. Oh, sorry about that. All 14 wins from the past 3 seasons, a school spokesperson confirmed. That includes all 5 wins last season during Jonathan Smith's first year as the coach. Diesel, the 3 players are no longer with the program, obviously.
Oh, man, the definition of kicking a program while they're down.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point in that? And it's funny, how often do we talk about, there was a gambling issue last week or 2 weeks ago that we talked about, that none of the players that were involved in those allegations are still even with the program, yet the program is, at least on paper, being punished.
And how bad do you feel for first-year head coach last year, Jonathan Smith, right? I mean, my gosh, what is he going to do? Maybe look for another job. Maryland coach Mike Locksley Diesel said he's not coaching for his job despite the team's 5 consecutive Big Ten losses and continued struggles in the league games and late this season. Locksley told reporters Tuesday that he deserves to keep his job, saying, "I'm the head coach at the University of Maryland. After a 4-0 start, Maryland sits at 4-5.
They have a football team?
Yeah, they do.
Man, like, can we just bring Maryland back to the ACC? That's where they need
Yeah, I agree with you there. Less than 18 months into her tenure, athletic director Ann McCoy was fired by Washington State on Wednesday. McCoy, who has worked at Washington State since 2001, served in the AD role on an interim basis until she was promoted in the spring. And Diesel, I don't know much about Washington State other than they're not relevant. They're not good. You see you do see the Washington State flag at game day.
It's still on game day.
That's right.
Old Crimson, they call
That's
it.
right.
Yeah.
That's the only good thing I think they have going for them.
Yeah, I like Wazoo. I used to be a fan of them, obviously, when Mike Leach was there.
Yeah.
It's another one of those unfortunate things that happened after 80% of the Pac-12 moved to the Big Ten.
Tonight in college basketball, top 25 action, number 17 Michigan State hosts San Jose State tonight at 6:30. But the real marquee game tonight, guys, Purdue, Alabama, number 2 versus number 8. This one's at 7 o'clock, and if you're a college basketball fan, this one could be a lot of fun. Maybe a preview of what March Madness will look like. 2 really good teams, and I think I might have to tune into this one tonight.
Hey, all you Clemson football fans, I know you're interested in this one. In case you missed it, on Tuesday, Duke beat the ever-loving Tar out of Army, and Coach K was on site for it. That's what's
How about
fun.
that?
He coached at both teams,
Yeah, he did. 2 more for you. Detroit's wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown, has apologized if he offended anyone with his Trump dance touchdown celebration Sunday while President Donald Trump was in attendance. He said, first of all, if I offended anyone, I do apologize. I did not mean to offend anyone. It was just we're having fun. St. Brown said on the St. Brown podcast that he co-hosts with another teammate. He said, if any president was at that game had a dance, I would have done it. It had nothing to do with who the president was. Welcome, Diesel, to 2025, where you have to apologize for doing a Trump dance.
You got to apologize for doing nothing wrong.
Good Lord.
Jeez.
Softies. Baltimore Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson returned to practice after missing a session due to a knee issue. Jackson had previously missed 3 games with a hamstring injury, but has since played in the last 2 games. Just unfortunate luck up there, right? I mean, who's had a worse season than those guys?
He missed 3, came back for 2, maybe retweaked something. It's tough, man.
It's bad.
For one of the best players in the game right now, and a franchise and a fan base that's used to winning. God, what a brutal season. When we come back, Cole, number 1, I'm going to make a call to you, Tolos, to get us your upset picks.
Let's
and
go.
Number 2, Paul Feinbaum had something edgy to say, shocker, right, about the college football playoff. And I wonder if he's right or if he's just blowing a big old load of smoke, flapping it with those big-ass ears of his. We'll talk about Paul Feinbaum. What do you have to say? Is he right? Is he wrong? Next.
State.
What do Tolo Steve and Tiger Pal Rachel know that I don't know? Because both of them in the last couple of minutes have taken this Virginia plus 5.5 over Duke.
Yes.
Is that what,
Yes.
what you took?
Yes.
Also, we're talking about the Upset Picks Challenge, Tolos. If you haven't yet, get us your Week 12 Upset Picks. Remember, your goal is to pick a game where you think the betting underdog will win the game outright, and then text us with your name, your game, and the spread. A fine example of how it's done. Tolo Steve, model American, says, Tolo Steve, Virginia, plus 5.5 over Duke. And where you go to get those numbers is you go to ESPN.com, go to the NCAA football scores or schedule page. It's in both places. Find a game that you think the betting underdog wins outright, and then text it to us during the show on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. The winner gets a whole big fat cartload of nothing.
Oh,
But you get bragging rights, and I think that's worth more, to be honest.
it is.
You could get a nice prize, and that's awesome to have a prize. But the enjoyment of that wears off in like 5 minutes. You got the shiny new thing, you play with the toy, and you put it down. You never think about it again. But bragging rights last a year. So.
They do. And hey, listen, all kidding aside, going back to Tolo Steve and mine and Tiger Pal Rachel and a few other Tolos upset pick, I just look at it as simple as this here. Virginia's a good football team.
They are.
Do I think Virginia is going to lose 2 games in a row? I don't. I like Tony Elliott a lot. I think Tony Elliott's going to have them prepared.
What was the final score of their game last week? It was a tight game.
Yeah, it wasn't a blowout, but man, we're Cavs up. I mean, we've got the
let's go Who's
Cavalier fight song. We've got it rolling.
Okay, I mean it was 16-9. Virginia didn't get it into the end zone at all. Against Wake Forest.
Wake Forest.
Yeah, Wake Forest put up 10 points. Granted, that was a barn burner of a football game. Exactly 1 touchdown the entire game.
They can't be that bad again,
quarter.
Can they?
I guess. I don't know.
And that's just not like who they've been in 2025. They've been pretty good. So I don't know. Is it an anomaly? Does it turn into a pattern? Is Virginia on the decline? I still can't decide. Does Wake Forest like Robbie Ashford or not? Because they put him in, they take him out, they start somebody else. And they're just kind of all over the place when it comes to the quarterback position. I mean, do they have a better consistent option? Wake Forest and Robbie Ashford. I mean, it's like the fat guy and the fat girl who find each other and just find love. They have to just settle, right, just to get somebody. And look, Wake Forest, they just settle with Robbie Ashford. I mean, who else are they going to get? Who else is Wake Forest going to get to come play quarterback? I mean, Robbie Ashford's not that good. It's just a situation of It is what it is.
I still thought, and by the way, what year is Robbie Ashford? He is a senior. So his last ride. I mean, I guess you go to Wake Forest, you're playing in a relatively weak ACC. Obviously, you've got a new offensive coordinator, new head coach. Maybe you spark and you get a 5th round draft grade or something in the draft.
Yeah.
Let's be real. Robbie Ashford at this point, probably not getting drafted.
No.
I still thought that with his size, just being 6'2", 220, big
I know
kid.
where you're going with this.
I thought he should have come with Dowell against App State, and like, hey, you show out. You could be an absolute boss with your physical attributes at a Sunbelt school. You might have a chance to get drafted.
And you know what? That kind of brings up the point that we've talked about many times already, is that with these college coaches and this carousel diesel that we see spiraling out of control, maybe it's just a safer bet in a situation with Dowell Loggins going to App State from South Carolina.
Yeah.
Maybe you play the numbers game and say, look, I don't know what the data and the analytics say behind this, but maybe if you take a quarterback with you, you've got a better shot. You know him, he knows you. You're not coming into this new system and trying to redefine the offense. And Dowell Loggins has struggled this year at App State. So I'm with you. I think anything could have been better than what has been in 2025.
I'm just looking up here and see if ChatGPT knows the answer to this question. How many group of 5 quarterbacks have been drafted in the last 5 years? And it looks like not many.
No shocker.
Malik Willis was drafted. Jake Hayner was drafted
Malik
out of
was
Fresno
at,
State.
Liberty?
He was at Liberty.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it happens. It's not very often. But then, again, you would say how many Wake Forest quarterbacks have been drafted?
That's right. Yeah.
So,
By the way,
I would just think having the consistency of an OC head coach, you're bigger, faster, stronger than most of the guys at that level. You'd have an opportunity to be the biggest fish in a small pond again.
By the way, Diesel, you brought up a prize for the Upset Picks Challenge, which Tolos we are working on every year. We promise it's more complicated than you realize, but Dewey gave a pretty good option on the stream. He says the winner should get an autograph of me.
I think it should be an autographed photo of
That's
Dewey.
what I was going to say. What is an autograph of you?
What is that autograph going to be on?
You mean like
toilet
an
paper?
Autograph of yours?
A CV, an arrest report. What's that autograph going to be on? So
Autograph's an autograph.
Right. And hey, you ever watch Antiques Roadshow back in the day? Or
I like the one with
Pawn Stars.
Pawn Stars. I like those. Yeah.
It would be the autographs on the items that were a little weird. If a baseball player signs a baseball card, that's no big deal. But if a baseball player signs an arrest record,
it's pretty
now
cool.
that's interesting. So anyway, Tolos, 844-FAN phone, 844-326-3663. Your name, your game, and the spread. Tim D in Easley taking Pitt plus 12.5 at home over Notre Dame.
And Tolos, listen
you liked
here.
that game a lot.
I did like it. I don't trust Notre Dame, but I want to say this to the Tolos real quick, who have done the responsible thing every week and send in their upset pick. We did it yesterday, and we said, look, we really need y'all Tolos to stay in the game. If you've already sent yours in, how about it's not too late? Just get their feet wet so they can know what to do next year. Get your wife involved, brothers, sisters, friends at work.
Well, I don't know if getting your wife involved
but it didn't work out for you.
Idea.
Didn't work out for you.
It's been terrible for me. It's been terrible.
That is true.
She, by the way, F.U. Ashley is my wife. She's a Furman alum. It's one thing I told myself I'd never do when I was in school at App State, is I'd never marry a Furman girl. And what did I do? I married a Furman girl. She's great, but she's also kicking my rear end at this challenge. Currently in 5th place. There's 2 Tolos tied for 3rd, so I guess technically she's in 4th place. But she doesn't
pretty good.
She doesn't watch football. Now here's the long con that I'm doing here. And Tolos, you can tell me how you've achieved the same end. I've got Ashley sitting down, interested watching football. At least the games that she picked. Last week, she rolled with me. She picked Iowa to upset Oregon. Tight ball game. I was sitting down watching it. She was sitting on the couch, like gripping a pillow. And like so tense. She was into it. See, she's never liked football. She's never like, she'd tolerate sitting down and watching an App State game. Mostly she was like doom scrolling on her phone, but she was in the pocket. Like she was in the slot watching that game. And then she starts saying things like, I'm waiting until one day. She's like, why would he pull the safety? Why would the cornerback do that? Why would he crash down and try to sack the quarterback? And one of these days those words are going to come out of her mouth. And I'm going to be like, oh, I got her.
Yeah.
Got her.
Hey, look, this is a little bit of breaking news. Dan B gets in on the YouTube stream and says, everyone taking Virginia today thinking it's 5.5. It was locked in at 3.5 yesterday. I don't know. Dan, can we confirm that? Because I thought, what did you put down for me? Was it 3.5 yesterday that you wrote down for me?
Let's find you on the list.
Because
here.
I made mine on the show yesterday pretty early. I think the second hour, Diesel. What do you have early in the show for
Cole? You locked it in. You locked it in at 4.5. And let's see. We had Dan
B, don't do us like this. Are you kidding me?
We had Kane send it in at 4.5. Cole, you had it at 4.5. Jarrett Tripp had it at 4.5.
I never saw it at 3.5.
And then today we've had Tolo, Sean, Tiger Pal, Rachel, and Tolo Steve send it in at different numbers. As a matter of fact, Tolo's Sean, he's trying to get one over on us. He's sending it in at 6.5 points. But that's today. As of yesterday, everybody's saying 4.5.
Time out.
Now, remember, lines are locked in at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, but you're telling me it moved a point in an hour?
Dan
B, I'm not happy about this. I'm not happy. I don't like it. I don't believe you. Can you there's no way. I don't like a 3.5 point. You're telling me I took a 3.5 point spread?
That sucks to suck, man. Is what it is.
Dan, I don't know that you're right on this. I'm questioning Dan B right now.
Dan, we're going to need you to show us your screenshots, and we're going to need you to hold it up next to a copy of yesterday's newspaper.
Yeah, with a date on
That's
it.
how
right?
they used to do it back.
That's right. Yeah, with a milk carton. Too.
Proof of life. Yeah.
Dan, I don't like that at all. Can I change my upset pick?
Nope.
This sucks, man. I would have not taken a game at 3.5 points. I mean, that's pretty much worthless. What's that going to do for you?
Dewey says Dan B should be fired. Well, here's the thing, Dewey. Dan B's not getting paid.
But he should still be fired. I'm with Dewey on this.
You can't fire somebody who's not getting paid.
Here he is, by the way.
You can't fire a volunteer, right?
Well, I'm fed up, and I think Dan B. Let's see, Dan.
This might be the biggest controversy on this show in a long time.
I'm not happy.
What have you got to say for yourself?
Oh, and by the way, because Dan is a pilot, I do have a new sound effect anytime Dan calls the show. All right, now you can go ahead.
The wrong airline, but okay.
Wait a minute. Time out.
They use different sound effects?
Oh, well, I don't know. That just sounded like the one from the commercial.
What's it sound like? What airline?
Southwest. You're free to move about the country.
So you fly for
A different company.
Okay. What is can you give us a sense? Can you give us what is your
what's the sound
what
like?
does your button sound like when somebody presses it?
It'd be the same one, but it'd be the same tone.
Oh,
It's not the same tone?
No, we need you to act it out, Dan.
No, we're not doing that.
Come on, Dan. Why won't you bing bong, Dan?
Bing bong.
So I was today years old when I found out that different airlines have different sounding chimes. I did not know that. Did you know that, Diesel?
No.
I didn't know that.
Why would it be different for different airlines?
Are you making this up too,
They're
Dan?
all the same, like two or three plane manufacturers.
But whatever you're playing just now may not be an actual airline.
Oh, it is. I got a pilot sent to me this morning, by the way.
Recorded live on a plane with a copy of today's newspaper, Dan.
That's right. What's going on this thing, man?
I'll tell you what I saw. So I saw you made the pick yesterday at 4.5, and I went back and looked at the schedules page, and what I highlight everything, and then I copy it and paste it into a text document. So, because if you screenshot, then I have to make several screenshots. I mean, I can do that if we need to. But so I confirmed that mine was 3.5 is what I was seeing. Ooh. Then I went back to the page where it shows the lines on scores.
Yeah,
and it showed 4.5 at that moment. And we've had this happen before, and me and Diesel's talked about it. The worst one was that one where the line moved like 5 points from Sunday or Monday to Wednesday. But so we decided to use the schedules page. But what I think is happening is I think as lines change, ESPN is not updating one page to be exactly the same as the other. It's not automatic.
This is ridiculous.
We have adjusted this in the past. And if 4.5 is, you want to call the number because that's what you saw. And I saw 4.5 on the scores page. So, I mean, I don't mind if that's what we got to do.
Change the line.
Wow.
Change the line.
So now we need a Twitter poll or something.
We need I guess leave it up to the Tolos.
Should people who pick that game get 3.5?
Let's do a vote.
Or 4.5.
Let's do a vote and say it has to be on the
Dewey gets to decide. How about that? Are you okay with that, Cole?
Yeah.
Dewey, I know you're watching the stream.
Look here, Dewey.
Dewey. You only can choose 4.5 or 3.5. How many points should people who pick that game get?
Please, Dewey. Please. I love you. I love you. My favorite
Good
Tolo.
Lord,
Dewey. Dewey, I love you so much, Dewey. I love you, man. Please we need a 4.5. Dan, did you see it change again today? It's now 5.5.
Yeah. I see that it has changed again. And I knew the moment I saw it at 5.5, I was like, uh-oh, we're gonna have a problem here.
When I knew there was already an issue from yesterday. Yeah. Dan has that voice, Diesel, of like the guy in the background. We need to do a segment for next year's upset picks where he calls in with like the locked lines and, he does his best. He's got a good voice. Put some music behind it. What do you call it? The locked lines segment with Dan B.
Dan, I know that you're a pilot and you're,
sorry.
you are. You're responsible for souls every time you get behind the stick. But have you ever felt this weight of responsibility before?
No, never.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. By the way, Dewey says 3.6. You should get 3.6
Well,
points. How about this, Dan? How about we make everybody happy and we just split the difference and say it's worth 4?
Okay.
It's worth
I mean,
4.
I don't feel like I have a vote here. You guys
I just gave you the authority, Dan.
Okay. No, that's fine. I'll make it 4. That's what
Okay.
I'm saying. I'll make it 4.
Goodness.
What's your point?
All right.
So 4 it is.
That game is worth 4 points.
All right.
Officially
Sounds good.
official. Okay.
You're the man, Dan.
Okay.
Appreciate you, Dan.
All right.
You are now free to move about the cabin.
Is that what they say after that?
I think so.
Yeah, I think you're right. I didn't know that, though. I didn't know that it was different for different airlines.
Hey, did all the airline traffic controllers go back to work today?
I don't know, but I'll tell you this real quick, not to get sidetracked. I have a friend. This is serious. I'm not joking. I have a friend who works for an airport in Charlotte. She said that there is no better time than right now if you're looking for a career change that starts at like $90,000 a year. She said there's no better time than right now with the government opening back up. And she said there was already a shortage for air traffic controllers. And she said it's a tough job. It's stressful. But she said I'm telling you, she said there's no better time. You're about to see the salaries skyrocket. So if you don't hear me on the radio in like 6 months, I might be air traffic controller. I don't know what that
for.
You're clear to land. Go ahead.
I mean,
Is that what you say?
It's all handled by like a Game Boy, right? I mean, they all just do it with a little handheld device.
I don't know, but I did think about it. I said, I could sit up in a tower all day. I wouldn't be with you Tolos, but for 90 grand, starting out, not bad, right?
Yeah. Well, you realize they have one of the highest suicide rates of any profession in America, right?
That's not good.
Let me look that up.
That's not good. Diesel, that's not good. Don't say that.
Suicide rates.
Oh, my gosh.
Let's see. For males, it's agricultural. What? That doesn't make any sense.
There we go. See, we're safe. We're safe.
Let's see the ranked. Goodness gracious.
What Tolos do you think would be the best air traffic controller, by the way?
The best air traffic controller.
What Tolo? You can't say Dan B because he's already he'd be good at
the worst is Dewey. Come on. That's not even
crash every day.
The best. I'm gonna say, honestly, I think Magcraft would be a good air traffic controller.
Oh, he'd critique every single little move the plane made.
He'd say, it looks like your wheels are about 3 centimeters too low. What are you doing?
That's true.
Pilot, fix that. Get it squared away.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That is a good point.
Air traffic controllers, not high on the list. I always thought it was really high.
Thank you.
Highest ranking. We've gone down a weird path here, and we will get to that Paul Feinbaum audio later, I promise. Yeah. Agricultural and food scientists, loggers, musicians, fishing and hunting workers. What? Oof. Fishing and hunting makes me happier than anything else in this world. And then extraction workers, whatever that means.
Right, learned something new today.
I thought it was like dentists, animal doctors, and air traffic controllers off themselves a lot.
Dewey said, I just filled out the application for air police. I don't know that air police is the proper title for.
God, what has happened to this segment?
Air police. It did go a little sideways.
We need Lou Bezjak to save us.
Let's talk high school football. Dutch Fork in action this Friday versus an upstate team. A lot of big games. And, man, if you have a question to talk high school football, get it in now during the commercial break. If you want to talk a little high school football, we'll ask Lou about it next. Lou Bezjak of the State Newspaper. Well, it's time to talk high school football playoffs round 2. Before we could even get Lou Bezjak on the phone, we had one of the Tolos call in wanting to know about Woodruff and Christchurch, a big task for Christchurch taking on a really good Woodruff team. We bring in Lou Bezjak of the state newspaper to talk high school football from the upstate to the Midlands. If you have a high school football related question, you can get it in at 844-326-3663. Lou, I know you've been covering high school football for a long time, and Woodruff has not been great lately, but Brett Sloan doing a terrific job up at Woodruff, and seeing them in 3A as that perennial power hosting a really good Christchurch team. I know these two teams aren't in your coverage area, but has the potential to be a good game Friday night here in the upstate. What are your initial thoughts on this one?
Yeah, that's definitely one of the ones. More interesting matchups in the second round. We're going to get more competitive games than last week, and I think this one could be one of them. I like Woodruff's chances. I mean, I think they're definitely one of the favorites there in the 3A Upper State. And Christchurch has gotten better. I mean, they play a tough schedule. But they're battle tested over the years in whatever classification they've been. They've made deep runs, and they've gotten better as the season goes along. But it's definitely going to be a big test for them tomorrow night.
Yeah, Lou, as we went through Cole's picks last Friday for the first round of the playoffs, he was saying there's just so many teams get in that you end up seeing some pretty bad football teams in the playoffs. And you just said it, they were probably going to get some more competitive games this weekend. But are there any that, kind of still feel like quasi bye games, that are still just at this point not going to be competitive?
Maybe Dutch Fork Boiling Springs. I don't know if, the way they've met the last couple of years. Irmo, Lugoff Elgin's having a great year, but I don't know, can they hang with Irmo? Trying to think what else. Newberry, Hanahan. I think Newberry rolls, and unless they're overlooking next week's possible matchup with Loris. I think those are three that stand up in our area that could potentially be blowouts for sure, but definitely a lot more games that are going to be especially the road teams will have a lot better chances this week to pull off the upsets, unlike last week when we only saw a couple lower seeds win on the road.
And I think I would agree with you there, Lou. We'll park on that Boiling Springs Dutch Fork game for a second. Tom Knotts has had their number. The last time Boiling Springs won, it was 2011. The late Bruce Clark went down the Dutch Fork in Irmo and got the win. But since then, even in that 2016 state championship game that you and I were both at, where it was a one-touchdown game, the other meetings haven't been as close. And to your point there, it's a Boiling Springs team that lost a lot from last year's team. They've had some inconsistencies on the offensive side of the football, Lou, and then Dutch Fork, even though they've had a few injuries to deal with themselves as well. I guess when you look at a matchup like this, how do you think Boiling Springs makes it a game late? Because if you look at it on paper, I know the games aren't played on paper, everybody would agree that Dutch Fork's the better team, but you've seen Dutch Fork. Are there areas of vulnerability where you feel like teams maybe could keep this thing close, starting with Boiling Springs Friday?
When the time of possession is the big thing. Keep that offense on the field. It's not one of their better Dutch Fork's offense that we've been used to, but still they have that big play capability with Jackson Knotts and Stone Fury. I think try to win the time of possession and do what you can to avoid those two defensive ends. And teams have been able to do that at times. You run away or run right up the middle, so you really take up those two defensive ends, Julian Walker and Jaden Worth, out of the ball game like that. And I saw that White Knoll was able to do that a little bit with the quarterback draw they ran against Dutch Fork when they played earlier this year. So the time of possession, I think, is the big thing, though, to grind out long drives and keep that Dutch Fork offense off the field.
Talking to Lou Bezjak of the state newspaper. Lou, you've been around, you've seen some things. Who would you say, and I'm going to leave this kind of open-ended, mention as many of them as you want to here, teams and programs that you would say are the best programs in the state of South Carolina that have never won a state title or that, haven't won one in quite a while? Do any of them have a shot maybe to kind of finally break through that ceiling and finally get a title this year?
Thinking Newberry, it's been a while. They've been, and they're undefeated, but I don't know. They're being in the lower state. I think it's really with Loris and Oceanside. I would say maybe them. Florida just won. Irmo, it's been a while since they won. I think they can get back to the championship game. And if they would play Northwestern or who they would play, it's going to be a tough matchup. But that would be big. It's been a while since they've won the state championship. They made it last year, but still to kind of break through there. Like we mentioned, Loris team. I mean, Loris is kind of been growing, and can they break through? They would have to beat Newberry next week and probably Oceanside the week after. But that program's on the rise. That they made it to the state championship, or I know it's late. They made a deep run in the boys basketball playoffs, and it's out there. It's not right in Myrtle Beach, but and they've done a really good job with building that program up.
Lou, we talk a lot about Dutch Fork, and with them playing Boiling Springs Friday, they could potentially play Burns next Friday. They could potentially play a Dorman or a Spartanburg the following Friday. So we in the upstate we're going to see Dutch Fork a lot over these next few weeks. We all know what Tom Knotts has done in his time there: 9 state championships, 13 region championships. You look, what's funny is before Tom Knotts got the job, we all said, hey, what Bobby Bentley did at Burns will never be replicated again. And then Tom Knotts arrives on the scene down in Irmo, and all these years later, it looks as if we're having the conversation. What Tom Knotts has done at Dutch Fork will never be replicated again. Do you believe that to be true? Do you believe that there will ever be? I mean, we saw, the streak and the amount of wins that the late John McKissick had at Somerville High School. And, a lot of good coaches up here in the upstate, not even, going to start naming off coaches because the list is way too long. But Tom Knotts, it just seems like and feels like 9 state championships will be hard for any coach to match.
Yeah, maybe Jamie Nichols at Abbeville, maybe what he's been able to do. But yeah, no, especially now, guys are not. I mean, we see it on the college and pro. They're not. You're not coaching in your 60s and 70s. I mean, Tom Knotts he's in his late 60s. I mean, he's getting up there, but guys are not coaching that longer. They're getting out a little bit more. They're just with the pressure and all the things going on. I mean, you don't see guys staying around long enough to do that. So yeah, it's going to be tough. Like I said, Jamie Nichols, we saw Jackie Hayes, what he did at Dillon. That was a run that he had on. And we mentioned Bobby Bentley, and we mentioned Chris Miller, what he did. And just, it's going to be definitely tough to do what he's done, and just the games. I mean, in both states, the state championship, number of state championships is ridiculous. 100+ game winning streak when he was in at Independence, and now do this at Dutch Fork. I think he'll coach. I know he'll coach the rest of this year, and I know probably next year, and then I think he'll ride out with when his son graduates. So I think you never know. He might. You never know. He's just wired differently, man. He is all football all the time during the season, man. He's just as intense as it gets, man, and it's fun to see. It's interesting to play for him, and his son's getting the taste of it this year to be on that varsity level, and now the pressure situation in the playoffs. So it's fun to see that dynamic working together.
Lou, what can you tell us about this upcoming Blythewood Dorman game? Is there any chance Blythewood gets it done, and is there any chance they fill that 10,000 seat stadium there at Dorman?
Yeah, I don't think so. The Blythewood doesn't really travel well. I mean, that was a good win for them, though, to beat Clover. They had struggled a little bit near the late in the year. They get a good dual threat quarterback in James Vesey. He could run, he could throw it. He kind of took over late, early in the summer, because Johnny Collins, who was their starting quarterback, decided to concentrate on baseball. He just signed with College Charleston yesterday, so they had to kind of move Vesey up a year in advance. They got a pretty good running game with Strong and Hendricks, and a really good offensive lineman, Reed Palucci. I think he's definitely a Power 5. He's got some Power 5 offers, Power 4 offers, and they like to spread it out. They're not big on running the ball. They'll throw it a lot. So it's and having that win last week, you got that already been in the playoffs. I mean, having that weekend advantage. Some coaches like that, haven't played that week. Some needed to bye to rest up. So yeah, it's going to be a tough task for Blythewood for sure.
Lou, Texter brings up a question about the furry kid at Dutch Fork that you mentioned, Stone, being any relation to Mike. It is his son. And, man, you talk about a really good athlete. You mentioned him a minute ago. He played at Gaffney when Mike was up at Limestone. I believe he transferred to Flora before he was at Dutch Fork, Lou. Correct me if I'm wrong there. But you're talking about Dutch Fork's leading receiver, and he played defense primarily when he was at Gaffney, and now he's playing a little bit of both ways. And then the second part of that question, the two-part question, what are your expectations with his dad calling the shots now for the Gamecocks?
Yeah, Stone, yeah, he did. I think he was a safety or corner at Gaffney. Then he went to Chapin. He played,
Gotcha.
Yeah, Chapin. He played last year at Chapin. And then he transferred. Chapin had a lot of turnover in the offense net, and he just, they were living, in district, due to the transfer. Yeah, he has about 600 yards receiving. He had a big year last year. He's good on special teams, really quick. He was really impressive in that 7-on-7 and over summer, the speed to watch him. And be interesting to see where he goes. USC hasn't offered. I know he's got some Ivy League offers and interest, and he's a hard worker, and he definitely can stretch the defense. And yeah, with his dad Mike calling the plays, I think he did it when he was at Limestone. So it's a lot of expectation. We'll see. Shane Beamer said this week they've definitely been tweaking that playbook. I think just try and get Norris in the space and trying to just get him in different areas and not just drop back and do a little more design runs and just let him kind of take over things and see how things work out against a good Texas A&M defense this week.
Lou, parking there on star power, they say the biggest stars shine brightest when the lights are on. And who are you looking at this weekend playing that might have themselves a big old game? Obviously we know Trey Segura up here at Burns is a highly touted player that's going to hopefully have a big time opportunity in the future. But outside of that, is there a player or two that you're saying that guy is going to have a big night on Friday?
Yeah, I'm looking like maybe going to the Spartanburg Ridgeview game. I think on the Ridgeview side, Christian Jackson, he's kind of been beat up, banged up during the year, and he came on at the end Sumter game. And he really had a big game receiving. If they can get the ball in his hands, he's dynamic. Then you look at the other side, Lynch now back right for Spartanburg, and how he goes up against that Ridgeview defense, which has been pretty solid this year. I'm looking forward to that matchup. It has a chance to be a really good one. More experience at quarterback for Spartanburg with Burke, and they got a guy, Bijan Virgo, who's kind of taken over the thing after they replaced Ashton Chapman, who stepped in for Trey Howard, who was the starter, coach's son. He got hurt against in the first game of the year, and he let Linz Frank injury. So yeah, it's going to be. I'm looking forward to see how those two stars and that game in general plays out on Friday.
Lou, what do you make about this Indian Land Hillcrest matchup? I know with you being in large part involved with the weekly polls in terms of the statewide media polls, Indian Land's been a team that's been pretty high in their classification all season long. It's a team that's kind of, in my mind, hard to gauge just in the sense of, them being tucked away up in the corner of the state a little bit, some newness with that program, a Hillcrest team that is really, really potent on offense with Bennett Swaggart and Jackson Free at quarterback. I just don't know what to make of this game. I know Indian Land is very talented. Only one loss to a really good Northwestern team this season, Lou. But on the other hand, Hillcrest is a really good offense, has a really good offense. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, that's good. I like Bennett Swaggart. He's a good coach, and he's got some weapons there. I was looking at over some of the numbers, and they put up some points. And I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, first of all. And Indian Land, like you said, it's kind of a rising program. I remember when I started, I think, in Florence over 20 years ago, they were Class A school.
Yeah.
I believe at the time.
That's right.
They were powerhouse in softball. I remember that. They beat Latta a few times. And Adam Hastings, their coach, I actually remember him covered when I was in North Carolina, his playing days at East Burke High School. And I'm familiar with the quarterback at Indian Land. I went to high school with his mom back in Ohio, and they moved down here. And he's good. He's he's really done a good job. And like I said, they've won some close games, and the schedule wise maybe didn't, compare to some of the other ones. The bigger wins, I mean, the biggest test was against Northwestern, and a lot of teams have gotten that this year. So I look for a high scoring and offensive game, and should be a fun atmosphere there at Indian Land.
Lou,
yeah.
As we let you go, man, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Make 2 picks. Blythewood, Dorman. I think this one's pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
You going Dorman?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and then Spartanburg, Ridgeview, another one that I've went back and forth on all week long. What is Lou Bezjak thinking? Spartanburg at Ridgeview.
I'm going Ridgeview just at home. I mean, but I think it's going down in the fourth quarter.
Me too.
And I think it's going to be a big game. Experience at quarterback and that, and Ridgeview, some of the players not been in this, like Virgo, and how they see respond, and are they able to run the ball with Boban and get the ball to Christian Jackson. So I think that has the potential to be one of the better games, best games of the Friday night.
Lou, thanks as always, man. You're the best.
All right, guys, take it easy.
Lou Bezjak, the state newspaper. Man, it's here, high school football round 2. And just a quick programming note, Diesel, before we run off the break. Burns football, Tolos, if you're a Burns football fan and you're listening, Burns football will not air on this station tomorrow night. We will be airing Furman basketball on this station, and then Burns will be airing on our sister station tomorrow night, News Talk 98.9 WORD. Wow. You can still listen, though, on the Odyssey app and the iHeart app.
Think about that, man. You're going to have Burns on 100,000 watt blowtorch. That is going to be a massive broadcast.
It is hopefully a massive win as well.
Yeah. When we come back, let's get to that audio that I was talking about earlier. Paul Feinbaum had something to say about the playoffs. Is he right? Is he wrong? That's next. So I knew, Cole, that after last season, when Boise State got themselves a first-round bye in the college football playoff, that there was going to be a hatchet job, that they would have to make sure that could never happen again. You can never let a G5 team get a bye again. Well, now Paul Feinbaum, the mouth of the South, has a new idea. We need to change the playoff again. Here's Paul Feinbaum. He's on with Stephen A. and Mad Dog Russo. Paul Feinbaum right here on the Fan Upstate.
Are you okay, Paulie, with a 3-loss team in the tournament? Texas. If it's Texas? I'm not okay with that, Paul? Give me a break. Yeah. I am okay with that, Doggy. What I'm not okay with is your ridiculous statement from a minute ago. I mean, what is wrong with this country? Let's put a couple of people over here in. Let's put a couple of people. What about putting the best in? I don't see Major League Baseball. I don't see the NFL going, the Chiefs, they've been there too many times. Let's put the Patriots in. I mean, Doggy, this is supposed to be about excellence, not about being fair. This is not the little leagues where we give a second, third, fourth, and fifth place trophy. This should be the best. It's already a convoluted system because we let the group of whatever in, the group of 5 with South Florida, and they have no business. That conference, that division really has no business playing. That's like letting the AAA best team in to the Major League playoffs. It doesn't happen in any other sport. But for you to say, the SEC has too many teams in, and this and that is just patently ridiculous.
It's marketing, Paul. It's marketing. They need to get ratings in markets.
Wow.
That's why they've done it this way, Paul. But Paul essentially wants to get rid of letting a G5 team in there unless that G5 just so happens to be one of the top 12. And then, of course, he'll invent a reason why they're not good enough to really even be in the top 12, even though the College Football Playoff Committee decided that they are. Your opinion, right or wrong, Paul Feinbaum, get rid of the G's, get rid of the ACCs, get rid of the Big 12s if they don't have a team in. Just go straight seeding 1 through 12 for the college football playoff.
Well, he's right and he's wrong. A couple of things he said is true. A couple of things he said I disagree with. Of course, I agree with him. I want the best teams in the college football playoff, but you can't tell me a 3-loss Texas team deserves to be in over a G5 team that did what they were supposed to do. And I don't always side with the G5 Diesel, but you have 3 losses. Like how do you know that they're the best team? They have 3 losses. I just don't know that I'm okay with that.
Here's my problem, and this is kind of a bigger picture problem with college football, is now that all these conferences are going to 9 games, you're squeezing out the opportunities for the G5 teams to even play the power teams and prove that they're good enough. Sometimes you get the upsets. Sometimes you don't.
Sure.
It just is what it is. They go back to a couple of years ago when Cincinnati made the college football playoff. One year they played Georgia really tight. I think that's the year they didn't get in. But then the year that they did get in, they got blown out.
I was at that game.
They got absolutely boat raced.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's entirely situational and matchup. You can have a really good team that gets blown out even, and the patch on their jersey has no effect on it. So the Power 4 conferences, they love to siphon the best talent out of the group of 5, but they don't want to give them any platform. They don't want to put them on the same field. I know the college football playoff as it's constructed is probably more democratic than it should be.
Yeah.
Democratic as opposed to elitist, but I love the democratic approach because it gets more fan bases for more conferences involved.
Real quick, let's go to the phone line. Andrew wants to weigh in. What's up, Andrew?
Guys, I absolutely hate the fact that there are already 12 teams. There are not 12 teams in any year that all deserve a shot at the national title.
I'm with you.
It gives more chance for injuries to the best teams that have to slog through these games. I'm not saying they're not good teams ranked 8 through 12 or whatever, but they should have done better in the regular season. And when we expand past even further, we're just going to again make the regular season mean even less.
Yeah.
I don't even see myself watching it when we expand anymore.
So
who cares?
Andrew, how do you know? We've only had 1 year of the 12-team playoff. Hang on, Andrew. We've only had 1 year of the 12-team playoff. And you'd have to tell me where was the national champion from last year? Where were they ranked going into the college football playoff. We don't know if a 12 seed could ever win the national championship. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right, and the farthest they ever advance to is the championship game or the semifinals. But when we only have a one season sample size, you're casting an aspersion. You're making an assumption that it could never happen. Why not just let the chaos play out on the field and enjoy the game?
Because you're complicating things for one thing. You're allowing, again, for more injuries, more fatigue, and all of these things to water things down. And again, increasing more games in the season just gets more ratings and more stuff, but it doesn't help us find the best team in the nation, which should be the point of the playoff. Yeah. And that means you don't really need more than maybe 4.
So, Andrew, my argument would be I agree with you on the playoff expansion not being good for the sport. I've always said, look, you have the sample size of more teams in, but guess what? Most of the time, 99% of the time, I believe you're going to end up with the same 4 to 5 teams regardless. So that's been my biggest push. I'm with you. I don't want to see it expand either. I don't believe that expansion means, we're allowing teams to have a better opportunity to win. It's just ultimately all about the money.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate the phone call, man. 844-FAN. Phone. When we come back, Diesel, let's keep it on college football, but let's bring up a team, a coach that we haven't talked about much, and a little bit of news today regarding his athletic director. Does that mean there's pressure on a certain coach? I'm not going to tell you who that coach is until the next segment. That's next.
The Fan Upstate.
Well, I don't know if you, Tolo, saw this news earlier today or not, but it just so happened that we had it planned already in this very segment to get up to Boulder and talk about Deion Sanders. And bam, just like that, on three Sports reporting about an hour ago, Diesel, Colorado Athletics Director Rick George is set to step away in July. The school announced George hired head football coach Deion Sanders. So, with that being said, again, I already had this on the rundown. You and I were already scheduled to talk about Deion Sanders because this football season we've had a lot going on, a lot to get to, a lot to conversate about, but we haven't had the most time to talk about Deion Sanders here. And I want to know from you. I also want to know from the Tolos what your opinion is regarding Deion Sanders, who we know now will have a new athletic director in the 2026 school year. Diesel, is it time to maybe consider moving on from Deion? That's the question I ask you. Want to hear from the Tolos as well at 844-326-3663. In your mind, is that an outlandish statement to hear when it comes to moving on from Deion Sanders?
No, it's not outlandish. Deion Sanders has been a massive disappointment at Colorado. Look, I think it was great what he did when he had his sons on the roster, when he had Travis Hunter on the roster. But without those guys, Colorado sucks under Deion. They're just not good. They're not good. Deion, I think, came in with a tremendous amount of media hype. Oh, isn't it so cool that Deion Sanders is coaching? Oh, he was amazing down at Jackson State when you got guys that are future NFL #1 overall picks. Yeah, that's easy to roll teams when you've got that kind of talent disparity. You get them to Colorado. You get them competing against teams that have relative equal strength, talent, or better talent than he has. And all of a sudden, that hype folds like a house of cards.
So you're saying, and I want to make sure I'm hearing you clear on this, because I about passed out in my chair here when you said that. I had to check my pulse and heart rate all at one time. I want to be very clear about something. Is this thing on? You said that it's not outlandish to get rid of Deion. Did you say that? Did you really say that?
I think that Colorado has gotten all that they are going to get.
Wow. I could not disagree more, Diesel.
They got so much hype, so much attention. And, like Deion is still an amazing character, but eventually when they're not pulling off crazy upsets, or when it's not the shiny new thing, when it's not the new puppy, right? People just move on, right? They start focusing on teams that are actually good at football. Like Deion's like that puppy that you bring home and the kids are so jazzed and so excited to have this puppy. And they fall in love with having a puppy. Then the puppy gets a little bit older and it's a dog. And it's not as sweet and exciting as it was. Ooh. Now, all of a sudden, there needs to be some real substance there. Deion Sanders, all flash, no substance.
The Diesel, Deion disrespect. The 3 Ds there in this segment. I can't believe it.
I'm not being disrespectful. I'm being realistic.
Oh, my goodness. So here's where I disagree. I couldn't disagree more, by the way. And Tolos, want to hear from you. Where do you weigh in on this at 844-FAN-PHONE? That's 844-326-3663. Diesel says, I'm not being disrespectful. I'm being realistic. Well, Diesel, here's the reality of it. While you call Deion a character, and he does have his way of portraying himself sometimes as a character, Colorado was nothing before Deion Sanders. Are you telling me let's go get Carl Dorrell, who was fired mid-season, or Mike Sanford? I mean, you're making up guys who work at Kroger on Woodruff Road now. They were 1-11, 1-8 before Deion got there, allowing like 8 million points per game. They were last in FBS in scoring defense. You're telling me you'd rather go back to that? Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not saying go back to that. I'm saying that Deion did what he could do. He came in with his star power and he came in with the media attention and he raised the ship. But he's not raising this thing to 10 wins, right? He can raise it to 6-6. I don't know. I don't have his records at Colorado pulled up in front of me.
Yeah.
I think Deion with his hype could raise that team to a 6-6 level program. And that's probably about it.
Well, here's the thing I would say about that. If it were 10 years ago, Diesel, if it were 10 years ago and you had a build a recruiting class, yada, 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 I'd say I'd probably agree with you. But in this world of college football, you're telling me Deion Sanders. Now, losing Travis Hunter and losing Shador, obviously that's a big blow. And this team in 2025, Diesel, hasn't resembled 2024's team at all.
Hey, don't you be disrespecting Shiloh.
Well, Shiloh, sorry, Shiloh, you're not Shador, right? So he was, 4-8 in 2023, 9-4 last year, 7-2 in Big 12 play, combined 13-12 overall, a winning record, mind you, at Colorado. And we didn't even know Colorado had a football program, Diesel, before Deion. No, that was in 14 BC. That was before Christ. That was so long ago, people don't even know about Colorado. Now, does Deion Sanders have work to do to get Colorado to a consistent force? Yeah, of course. I believe, though, going back to my point, all he's got to do is pony up the NIL boosters and collectives at Colorado and go buy the best players in college. Vanderbilt's doing it. If Vanderbilt's doing it, why can't Deion Sanders do it? You're telling me Vandy's more attractive of a destination than Colorado?
Well, Vandy happens to be sitting in the most fertile recruiting ground in the country, in the highest profile. I won't say best. That's an argument we can have for another time, but most high-profile conference in college football that gets all the media hype. They get all of that. Deion's out at Colorado. That's way out west, my friend.
They make planes, though.
That's way out west. And when you're not, when you have to fall back on your own abilities to coach, and we talked about this. We have talked about this for the last 2 years, 3 years. Like, what's going to happen with Deion when he actually has to coach? Now, I've seen him hire a bunch of high-profile former NFL players and stuff, and that's great and all, but have any of them turned into just unbelievable coaches?
Well, I will side with you on this. I don't believe Deion Sanders has made the right hires. I'll side with you on that, okay? I'll give you that. I don't believe hiring all of your buddies who played with you in the NFL is the right move.
So what are we supposed to judge Deion on, right? We judge him on his record. We judge him on his decision-making.
Yeah.
And his record and his decision-making aren't great.
Well, I would say this. I would say Deion Sanders showed us last year that with good talent, he can keep Colorado and bring Colorado to a place of relevancy
in a mediocre conference.
Oh, yeah, which is 100% true. Which, hey, look, Colorado football, though, and relevancy, like that, those two things aren't in the same sentence. So if you are telling me, and I know you might be yelling at the radio saying, well, Cole, any coach looks good with good players, which partly is true, but Deion Sanders knows the game. Now, I will say, does every good player turn into a good coach? No. We've seen that. Hey, ask Clemson fans about the running backs coach right now. They'd probably tell you that's not always the case.
Said it.
But I do believe that Colorado would be idiotic to move away from Deion just because of where you've been, who you have, your belief in the guy. That would basically tell other coaches out there, hey, Deion, we gave him 3 years and that was it. We're not going to give you much time either. That's a terrible message to send to other coaches. Let's go to the phone lines. The one and only Dewey wants to weigh in at 844-FAN-PHONE. What's up, Dewey?
Yes, I have to agree with Diesel.
Oh,
wow. Wait, I don't know if I want that endorsement.
I'm upset with you, Cole. That's why I'm agreeing with Diesel.
You're upset with me?
Oh, okay. So it's personal.
Why are you upset with me, Dewey?
Because you keep saying South Carolina's going to get trampled, and that's not going to be the case.
When did I say that, Dewey? Have we given our score predictions, Diesel?
Not yet, but I know you're thinking it. You're a Clemson fan.
Wow. Oh, my gosh. Throwing the Clemson at me.
But real talk, Deion needs to go. His the celebrity status crap is over. Look at Bill Belichick. He knows football, but he's a joke. What else? Tom Brady and Tom Brady, he's nothing. Look at the Patriots. 2 years removed from Bill Belichick, and all of a sudden they're going to the Super Bowl. So Deion Sanders, he needs to go. He needs to retire. He's sick anyways. He's been recovering from cancer, and he's been recovering from other ailments. It's time for him to go to the sunset, go to Tahiti, go wherever, and just retire and quit bringing Lil Wayne and Michael Jackson and all them celebrities to Colorado because it's not helping them win. Colorado's going to go back to their suckiness, and everyone's going to forget about them. Oh.
Thanks, Dewey.
That was a
Thanks,
delayed.
Look, he had a phenomenal season when he had Shedeur, when he had Travis, and when he had Shiloh, and some other guys too.
Sure.
But since then, he has not been able to parlay his celebrity status, as strong as it may be. He's not been able to parlay it into continued success on the recruiting trail. I'm bringing my luggage with me, and it's Louis, has the 79th ranked recruiting class in America for the 2026 class. That is right there, Cole, with the likes of Western Kentucky and Toledo. That's not good.
No, and I guess Deion has the mindset and the philosophy, Diesel, that doesn't matter, that he can buy the best players, that he can bring the best players, because we did see a spike financially. We did see a spike financially when it comes to Deion being hired at Colorado. We saw what money at Colorado could look like. Heck, going back to my Vanderbilt point, nobody ever thought Vanderbilt could be a consistent power. We don't know if they're going to be consistent. They've been good the last 2 years, but still, I just do believe ultimately when you have a guy like Deion there, does that mean, Diesel, I think he's the best coach in the world? No. But I do believe that to your celebrity, star power, character type conversation and point that you brought up, I think that still carries weight.
Well, I'll put it this way. For the 2025 class, it's the most recent one, obviously, one that is completed. With the transfer portal, Colorado 19th in the country in the portal. They brought in 33 guys, 4 4-stars and 28 3-stars. You're not going to win a lot of football games. Like, I thought Deion Primetime Sanders was going to be able to load up the Colorado roster with 5 stars. I thought his celebrity status, and I'm sure that Colorado and those fans out there, I mean, Boulder's a bougie part of town, right? They got some money to attract some guys. But if you're a 5-star, are you signing up for the circus at Colorado? Or would you rather, if you have the opportunity, would you rather go to Alabama, Georgia, Southern Cal, Oklahoma, A&M? I mean, well, if you're at that level, that you can be as choosy as you want to be. You're a high 4-star, you're a 5-star guy. You had a great season last year. You got all this list of teams coming after you. Is Colorado at the top of your list?
I would say if the money is there, because we know that in today's world in college football is more about money than anything. And also, Diesel, I would say yes. I'll tell you why. Think about it like this. You go to Alabama, you go to Oklahoma, you go to LSU, you go to Georgia, you're another name. I've seen that I can go to Colorado and I can be what Travis Hunter was. I can be what Shedeur Sanders was. I can be the guy talked about across the country, or I can go sit on the bench in Athens, Georgia. I know that Deion still has work to do. You just brought up his recruiting class. It's horrible. I mean, it's horrible.
It's not good.
And I think going back to what I said a minute ago about his assistant coaches, Diesel, I think he's made some horrible decisions with these assistant coaches. I mean, bringing a bunch of ask Dabo. That doesn't always work.
I think he thought that the celebrity status, even though they might be diminished of the former NFL greats that he brought out there with him, would help, bring some of those guys, if you want to be the best, then you want to learn from the best. But again, those are all unproven coaches.
They are.
If you want to go somewhere, you want to learn from a proven coach. You don't care if that guy won a Super Bowl or not. You want to go play for a proven coach.
Deion's got to get some actual coaches that know ball. What are the Tolos saying, Diesel? Richard on Facebook says, Deion isn't a good coach. These kids are over Deion's show.
Wow.
Dewey corrected me. Go ahead.
I want to put it this way.
Yeah.
Dowell Loggins has a better recruiting class than Deion Sanders for next year.
That's a shot of the gut there. For
Sacramento State. They're not even FBS. They have a better recruiting class than Colorado for next year. Come on.
Sacramento State's a power, Diesel. They're a powerhouse. Come on. Texter from the 803 gets in and says Colorado was arguably the worst FBS program in America prior to the Deion hire. Who would Colorado even turn to? Deion is their best option. Tolo Steve says, can Dewey retire from calling in on the show, even though it's funny listening to him stumble and not have no idea what he's talking about? Well, Tolo Steve, why don't you call more instead of Dewey calling less? How about that?
If these phone lines are loaded up with callers, then we got to say, hey, Dewey, you got to keep it to 1 minute or less.
That's right.
Because we got Tolo Steve on the phone right behind you, and he's got something to say.
I bet we have Diesel within the course of a 4-hour show. I bet we have 300-plus text messages from different Tolos on the text line any given day. They're quick to text. We got keyboard warriors who will text. But I shout out to Tolos who are brave and pick up the phone. Call the show. Let us know your thoughts. Ultimately, Diesel, when you look at Colorado, we talked about this with Clemson. I think if he wanted to, he can make this a quick fix. He could be the best salesman in college football with the NIL era, transfer portal area, or era, not area, being a brand, Diesel. And guess what? You know what players want in today's era? They want exposure. You know what Deion will do? He'll give them exposure. It might be at 2 a.m. East Coast time, but he'll give them exposure. And I think that even though that brand has diminished a little bit, Deion Sanders changed and transformed the brand of Colorado overnight.
Yeah.
We weren't even talking about him. So if he were to hire the right guys and get the right guys in, I think this could be this is going to sound crazy. I think it could be a playoff team.
Well, Deion, my ultimate point is that Deion used that celebrity status to bring Colorado up from the depths to a decent program. Decent, not great, but respectable, right? We know that they were terrible, had 9 wins last year. Now they're down to 3. Brought them to respectability. Now, if you're, whoever it's going to be, athletic director at Colorado, if you made the decision to move on from Deion, you can parlay that new image and respectability into an actual coach who knows what he's doing. You couldn't get great coaches at Colorado before because you were a perennial 0-12, 1-11 type of team. But now that you're a 6-6 team that's got status, you might be able to get that better coach. Won't have the glitz and the glamour and the sunglasses and the everybody talking about him.
Yeah.
Won't be making the same quotes, but you might actually get a better coach out of it.
Let's go back to the phone lines at 844-FAN-PHONE. Richard wants to weigh in. What's on your mind, Richard?
Hey, I'm WVU fan 214.
Yeah.
Cool.
I agree with Diesel, but I think with Colorado, they just have to decide whether they just want the money coming in and the attention that Deion brings them, or if they want a good coach.
Yeah.
I just don't think Deion's a good coach, but I think he does bring in the money and probably would continue to do that, and probably gauging as to whether, if they let him go, who would also leave as far as bringing in the money.
It's like asking the question, Richard, do you want to be a good football program or do you want to be a clown show? Both of them get attention. Yeah. It's your choice.
Well, and I think he, like you said, he brought them to a place now you can go out and get a coach and hopefully keep some of those boosters and people bringing in the money. But I just don't think Deion's a good coach. I think, and now if he makes changes and goes after real assistant coaches and not his friends and stuff. But I don't see him doing that. So
it's a good point. Hey, great call, Richard. Call anytime. Appreciate the phone call. It's good stuff. I ultimately want to see it work. I do. I want to see it work because Deion, I think we need Deion Sanders in college football. I don't know if it will work.
Man. He's in all the same commercials. Wouldn't it be great if Deion Sanders was on Nick Saban's staff at Alabama? That wouldn't be prime time.
No.
But still, you'd be making a lot of money as a defensive backs coach at Alabama.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Really would be.
When we come back into the Clemson conversation, they've got Louisville tomorrow night. Even though Chappell kept wanting to call them Louisville, I'm going to have to call our friend yesterday from
Paul Rogers.
And say, hey, I got a guy here. You better look out for him. He's in the press box. Be careful around him. He says Louisville. But we'll talk Clemson versus Louisville with Chappell Fowler next. Well, Clemson has an opportunity, Cole, to get back to even this weekend. Tomorrow, as a matter of fact, 5-5 would be the goal with a win, sitting at 4-5 right now, coming off a 24-2 win against the Florida State Seminoles. To break it down and to talk about this game against Louisville tomorrow night, we go to Chappell Fowler of the State newspaper. Chappell, Clemson's defense, has been porous, would be maybe a little generous to call it, maybe like a hula hoop and with a fire hose going through it. Over the course of this season, was the performance that we saw, 10 points, holding Florida State to 10 points, Is that a get-right game, or do you think Florida State was just that bad?
Good to be with you guys. I must add, so I'm en route to Louisville. If anyone ever doubted my dedication to this business, I'm coming to you live from a Taco Bell parking lot in Danville, Kentucky. Got some chicken quesadilla in me, a little stop along the way, and about 90 minutes out. So I've been working at it. So I was happy to come on with you guys and get some time off the road. To answer your actual question, sorry. I think Florida State did them a lot of favors. I saw a cut up going around. Or maybe it might have been some GIFs within a story that Larry Williams did where he kind of took some plays from the FSU game, just showing the number of open receivers that missed passes or where Tommy Castellanos threw it high. There were 3 or 4 or 5 plays in that game where those coverage busts that really doomed Clemson against Duke reared their head, maybe not in as bad of a way, but in what could have been very damaging fashion. And FSU did them some favors by dropping those passes. And Dabo said as much. It was a step forward for the defense, but it was not perfect by any means. I think his wording, I thought it was fair. He was like, you know what? We had some busts, but we got some breaks, and we haven't had many of those this year in key moments. So I hope they keep turning our way. So that's kind of the way you have to think about it at this point with a flawed unit. So, it's better than the alternative.
Chapel Fowler, the state newspaper, joins us in the state segment. We talk to him and Jordan Kay every other Thursday at this time. Chapel, when you look at Louisville on Friday night, do you believe that Clemson's game plan with what their coaching staff is doing for tomorrow night's game against a solid Louisville team is much different than it would have been, let's say, if Clemson's season were to have gone as planned and they were still in the national championship hunt? Or do you smell desperation? We talked about this in the very last segment with South Carolina, maybe unloading the clip against A&M this weekend. Do you think the game plan changes much when your season has gone the way it has?
I think it has to a little bit because you're playing for something different, but in a lot of ways it's a lot more important. Not, of course, in terms of like a championship context, but this is a team playing for pride and to avoid being, the first Dabo team since 2010 with a losing record. And they've gotten, a lot of crap thrown at them this year. And a lot of it is deserved, maybe not all, but most of it. Like they've really fallen on their face in a lot of ways. And here you have a primetime Friday night opportunity. I had to look this up. This is the first ranked team that Clemson has played since LSU in the opener, which feels like forever ago. It's the first game Clemson has played when either team has an AP ranking since they went down and lost at Georgia Tech, which also feels forever ago. So, it's the ACC. You don't get a lot of opportunities like that. Usually Clemson is the ranked team in those opportunities. So, this is a hostile environment. They're doing a blackout with their jerseys. It'll be a fun one. So my thing is why not into the clip? I think Carolina should do that against A&M. Clemson should do that against Louisville. Your seasons have obviously not gone as planned, but you both have an opportunity to, get some sort of statement win, diminished statement win, you might call it, but why not? So I think it should change a little bit. If I'm Clemson, I would do that.
Chapel, we talked all off season leading up to it and through the better part of this season that, Clemson's defense is loaded with NFL draft picks, some of them first round draft picks, looking at, Avian Terrell and TJ Parker and Peter Woods. Do you think any of those guys, and maybe I'm asking you here to project what scouts would think, do you think NFL scouts are seeing the overall performance of this team and maybe are moving these Clemson guys down their draft boards a little bit? Is it possible that any of these guys fall around lower than what we all thought they would go?
I think it's absolutely a possibility. I'm not communicating with scouts a ton, but I do read a good bit of mock draft stuff, as I'm sure y'all do. And what I've seen, whether from Dane Brugler or NFL Network, NFL.com, all these sites that kind of do that, ESPN, is I think the phrasing that someone used recently is scouts are closely watching. I think this is in The Athletic. Scouts are closely watching to see how this season ends for a Woods, for a Parker, for a Terrell. I think of those three, I'd probably say Terrell has had the best year, just objectively, but by his standard stats, everything, advanced metrics, not perfect, but pretty solid. Those two defensive linemen especially, I think they have enough talent and potential to where a bad season isn't going to drop them to middle second round or anything. I think, if someone saw them sitting there at 20, they'd be ecstatic, but I think it is going to impact, or it can impact their overall. Peter Woods is not being projected at number 1 overall anymore. Let's put it that way. Parker is not being projected at number 3 overall. And of course, some of that is the defense around them, but I think they've put some stuff on tape that scouts are maybe not as happy with as they were last year, that dominant sophomore year for both of them. So I think this is a big 3 games. We're talking about why these 3 games matter, down the stretch still. There's another reason. Like, a lot of these guys are playing for draft stock also because they put themselves in position where they need to have a strong finish and good tape against Louisville, Furman, Gamecocks in order to keep that lofty projection that they had heading into this year.
Well, to that question, Chappell, do you think it's still a foregone conclusion that these guys that are the guys that are juniors, they all go off to the NFL regardless, or is there a chance that some of them come back for one more just to improve that draft stock, get themselves back up into that top 10 status?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that's one of the more interesting ones as we come down the stretch here, just given how the season has gone. My lean for that stuff is always just that if, a guy feels like he has a solid opportunity, a solid slot, you kind of just go when that happens. Like, if I'm in somebody's shoes, that's what I would do. You never know if, a debilitating ACL injury is going to come the next fall in college preseason camp. The guaranteed money is important. It's life-changing. I understand all that stuff. And I think you've seen with Clemson, even after a guy maybe has, not the most amazing junior year. I think about Miles Murphy a few years ago. He did not have a great junior year by any means, but he still got drafted pretty high. So my guess on those 3 defensive guys is they'll all still go, but I think just given how the season has gone, it opened up the door like a little bit slightly. NIL is part of that too. But also part of that is all those guys got paid pretty well, and 2 of them specifically on the defensive line maybe aren't performing up to that level. So maybe that plays a role also. But my lean is they'll all go. But again, I do think the door is slightly open, maybe 10% or something, if you want to put a number on it, 5%, 8% for at least one of them to at least consider running it back one more time.
Chappell, when you talk about those guys on the defensive front for Clemson, man, a big storyline, maybe the biggest in my opinion, Saturday is what happened to Isaac Brown of Louisville against Virginia Tech. I mean, you're talking about a guy who went for $150 against Clemson last year and has been a really solid running back. And obviously that's a big, big blow to Louisville's offense. Do you feel like that kind of levels the playing field when you look at a Tom Allen defense that has struggled in recent weeks?
Yeah, I was sitting there last night when the report came out, and I was like, "Oh, I guess Isaac Brown's healthy." And then Louisville has made a mistake and mistakenly not had him on the report. Not any like devious stuff there, just a straight up error. Yeah, because Brom had said they weren't expecting him to play, so that's what I anticipated. But the thing is, like, his backup, who's also a Brown, K'Wan Brown, has been really good too, and their total like offensive stats for rushing yards per carry, all this stuff has been really good. And it was mostly Brown, Isaac Brown, who torched Clemson last year in Death Valley, like you mentioned. But like, they've got some dudes around him. They've got some good receivers. I think, regardless of who their running back is, who their quarterback is, if it's Miller Moss, if they shake it up and go with somebody else, because he's kind of struggled. I think their identity is, start with the run. And in their 1-game sample size with this similar offense and scheme and personnel against Clemson last year, they did that and just torched them. I looked at the stats yesterday. I think it was like, 7.8 or maybe even 8 yards per carry that Louisville got last year. And I remember Dabo just being disgusted in that post game. That was kind of the first time that I truly felt like, okay, what's Goodwin is not going to come back after this year, just given how Dabo talked in that post game. So I think Louisville from last year has a pretty similar script that they'll follow, and it's up to Clemson to stop them.
Chappell, I mean, obviously you would expect Clemson to mix it up. It's defensive looks, whether they're going to hang back and play more zone, if they're going to play man and send some guys after Miller Moss. But, you said it. He's been fairly inconsistent and just not impressive, really, for Louisville. 11 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, just doesn't jump off the page there. But if you had to, put a lean on it either direction, would you expect Clemson, especially with the pass rush, to come after Miller and be super aggressive, maybe try to pick him off early a couple times and put this game away early, which also leaves your DBs out there on an island? Or would you expect them to hang back, play a little more zone, and let the game come to them?
I'd lean the first option, dialing it back early, seeing what you can do, trying to force a turnover. Those turnovers played a big role against Florida State. I know they've gotten some better pressure relatively in recent weeks. They've done a lot of those 3 defensive ends on the field at the same time packages that have been successful. I think more than anything else, like this secondary, even there have been some bright spots and they played better against FSU, but like this is just not a super well communicating group. And my thought is, the more time they're on the field, the more snaps or the more seconds per snap, like probably the worse it goes. So you've got a quarterback in Moss who's maybe not going to break off a run or go crazy and extend the play like some of these other more superhuman, slippery guys they've played in recent weeks, whether it's Mensa or Kevin Jennings or Castellanos. So I think you should go after him and see what happens. Again, that does challenge your corners, though, and they've been iffy in those situations. But I think the less time your DBs are having to cover, especially against that good Louisville receiving core, the better.
Chapel Fowler, the state newspaper, joining us in the state segment every Thursday at this time. Chapel, do you believe that Graham Neff's tweet last Saturday was a vote of confidence in what he saw on the football field?
I think it was an acknowledgement of how well fans showed out in a season that's been anything but ideal for anybody. I think that was kind of less his hat tip or vote of confidence for the football team and their operations, and more just like as much as he could directly say to fans, like, hey, this season has been a mess. We want to get it fixed, but thank you guys for still packing out this stadium and doing what you did. I thought that was an interesting tweet. I think he's very smart and calculated, just like Dabo said this all the time about Dabo. Like Dabo doesn't say anything or post anything by accident. Graham Neff's the same way. So I think there's obviously intent behind that, but I do think that was a lot more angled toward fans who really just stuck it out and made that atmosphere really impressive for a 3-5 team.
Talking to Chapel Fowler of the state newspaper. Chapel, I thought there was a play, I want to say it was deep in the second quarter against Florida State. It was a defensive pass interference, just another awful call that I thought Dabo Sweeney was going to be itching for another $10,000 fine. Ultimately, it didn't happen. He didn't go after the refs in the same way. But do you know if Dabo actually sent the first $10,000 fine to the ACC in the form of a big bag of pennies?
I do not know for sure. I'm going to lean no. I'm going to say that someone probably talked him out of that. I think he was just joking in the first place, but yeah, he was royally ticked off. But I don't think that happened. I might need to FOIA and see what I can find out about that.
All I could picture was, I don't know if you're a Seinfeld fan, there was the episode where Kramer was walking around with cargo pants filled with pennies. And that's what I thought is Dabo going to go to the bank or to the post office like that and just throw a big old sack of pennies on the table, said, here, mail it to the ACC offices.
Yeah, he avoided another one against FSU. I think you saw him kind of hold his tongue mid-game and post-game. He kind of emptied the clip after that Duke game. And I think for good reason, if there's any moment to really rally the troops after one particularly like iffy call, like that's the one to do it for. So I thought that was kind of his one time to rip him. He usually has one pretty notable instance of just ripping the refs, and that was kind of his shot in the chamber. And I think it reverberated. I think people heard that. There was a lot of national consensus that he was headed in the right direction with what he said about kind of nationalizing and more formalizing the ref structure for college football.
Chapel, what do you make of the ACC? I mean, you're talking about a Louisville team that Clemson's playing tomorrow night that's 7-2, but 6th in the ACC because of two crucial losses, one in overtime to Virginia, one to Cal, also in overtime. This is a Louisville team that's a couple of plays away, to use a Daboism, from being undefeated here in 2025, yet the ACC is a logjam at the top. Your thoughts on who comes out on top of that logjam?
Yeah, I just love the no divisions thing that allows us to have this logjam and all these awesome, potential opportunities and elimination scenarios. One thing I wish the ACC would do is like publicize this stuff. Like I wish they, heading into this week, gave us like a list of here's who's still in the running, here's who needs to do this to get in, here's what can happen this week. Like everybody's relying on these tiebreaker websites, and I did a lot of that last year when Clemson was kind of in that logjam with Miami and SMU. I think the Big 12 does a good job of that, like really publicizing, here are all the crazy outcomes that can happen. That would be a fun way for the ACC to drum up interest about what's kind of been a less than ideal, like cannibalizing of ourselves moment. I think Georgia Tech is getting doubted a little too much. I think the fact that they were idle after losing probably hurts them a little bit. It did in the CFP rankings. But if I had to guess a title game, I'd go probably Georgia Tech and SMU, or maybe let's go Georgia Tech, SMU, and I'd take Tech to win it. I'd have to look at who has the second best chance to get in after Tech, but sitting there with one loss, I think they'll run the table. I think they're a good team, and I think they'll end up getting the ACC's auto bid.
You know, Chappell, to that point there, I did see a scenario somebody presented of Georgia Tech versus Duke in the ACC championship game. And if Duke were to beat Georgia Tech, that might push them so far down the line that maybe no ACC team gets in, because there's no guarantee that a Power 4 conference gets a team in. It's assumed, but there's no guarantee. It's the 5 highest ranked conference champions get the guaranteed spot. So, I mean, it's possible that you see 2 G5s in there, like a USF and a James Madison. Is there any scenario in your mind, or is that complete and utter crazy talk to say that the ACC could possibly not get a team in at all?
I think it's mathematically on the table, so it's not crazy talk. I don't think that will happen. If you just look at, what the CFP values in metrics and all that stuff, I would imagine even if the ACC title team is Duke with 4 losses or whatever, that resume will stack up favorably versus, like the Sun Belt champion or something. I mean, shoot, last year Clemson was the lowest ranked conference champion. They lost out on a first round bye to what? The Big 12 team in Arizona State and the Mountain West champion Boise State. So, we've seen already how, these Power 4 teams or these conference champions are getting in with an automatic bid, but that doesn't guarantee a first round bye. And obviously they've changed the setup with that now to where it's just straight seeding. So, I mean, it's a fun alternative. I think the fact that we're at that point does not reflect well on the ACC itself, and probably speaks to why they need a big brand like a Clemson or a Florida State or Miami to really lock in and turn things around, which obviously has not happened this year. But yeah, I don't think JMU is going to beat out the Devils, but if it does, that would be an all-time Twitter joke for the rest of Phillips' tenure.
Chappell, you're the best, man. As always, appreciate the heck out of you, and we'll talk to you real soon.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
if you're man enough.
844 Fan Phone. This is Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson on the Fan Upstate.
Tolos, we need your upset picks. 844-326-3663. We need a big push in the final hour of the show. Hour number 4. We're going to get to some audio, some fantastic audio in the next hour. We've also got Clay Hendricks. Doesn't get much better than that. Diesel, head coach of the Furman Paladins, joining us at 6:22 as he does every Thursday. But I want to touch on this Alabama-Oklahoma game real quick. Okay. We mentioned it yesterday in the Upset Picks Challenge, and I have not seen many upset picks come in for this game. But, a couple of weeks ago, you and I did a segment for most consequential games in college football. We heard this audio from Paul Feinbaum earlier about Texas, a 3-loss team, still getting in. Don't you feel like this is the last chance? Not the last chance ever, but this is it for Brent Venables as far as 2025 goes. What I mean is, if they lose to Alabama, they will be 7-3, 3-3 in conference.
Yeah.
I know that you can still win out. I know that you can do what I get that. But I'm telling you, this late in the season, we're in November. Diesel, there's only a few weeks of college football remaining, and I believe that if Oklahoma loses to Alabama on Saturday afternoon, which, by the way, they're a 6.5-point dog, I believe Oklahoma is once and for all out of the playoff picture.
Yeah, 3-loss teams not getting in. And even on top of that, even if your 3 losses were all to great teams. Now, they lost to top 10 Ole Miss. They lost to an unranked Texas. Looked bad in that game, by the way, 23-6. And let's just say they play Alabama close. Let's say it's a phenomenal football game, and the final score is, 24-23. You're still a 3-loss team, and there's not enough meat on the bone with Missouri and LSU left to impress anybody, to put yourself back into the conversation. Yeah. So if they lost Alabama close, but they still had 2 top 10 teams behind them, and even if they won those games, you're still a 3-loss team, but you would have that big old medallion hanging around your neck that says, well, we just beat a number 2 so-and-so, and we beat a number 8 so-and-so.
Diesel, Alabama has the 57th ranked offense in FBS football, the 18th best defense. Oklahoma has the 78th best defense, the 78th best offense, and the 7th best defense, as you can imagine, only allowing 14.1 points per game. Bama's defense allowing 17.2 points per game. I will say this. I find it interesting when you talk about Alabama's defense that is clearly elite. Oklahoma's defense is also elite. Some of those numbers that I just gave you, that I just read out, you're talking about the 7th best defense. Oklahoma statistically has a better defense than Alabama. Yeah. Do I think Oklahoma's going to win this game? I'm not so sure of it, but I will tell you this. Here's where I have a little bit of hesitancy. Alabama's run game has serious issues. We talked about this with Bill Bender the other day, Diesel. Alabama's one of the teams in college football this year that just cannot run the football. They can't. Alabama, they used to be known as a team that would pound the rock. They're not that. So
Derrick Henry ain't walking those halls right now.
And Diesel, with that being said, with Alabama struggles in the run game and an elite Oklahoma defense, it's going to put a lot of pressure on the passing game.
Yeah.
I maybe regret not taking this game with the upset pick challenge. I do think there's a possibility. It's all going to come down to Ty Simpson, who I don't know if you've heard this statistic, Diesel, or not. Ty Simpson has 21 touchdowns to 1 interception ratio.
I think that puts him firmly at the top of the PDG stat. Have you ever heard of the PDG stat?
Pretty dang good.
Pretty dang good.
I'm
glad you figured that out.
And I'm good for some things.
Yeah.
Ty Simpson takes care of the football. There's going to be a lot of pressure on Ty Simpson. I think Oklahoma will subdue the run game. But what will Brent Venables do? Diesel, because if they beat Alabama, you're talking about an Oklahoma team that's all of a sudden 8-2, still in the playoff conversation. Bama also would be 8-2. I think this could be one of the all-time Brent Venables masterclass coaching jobs if he somehow finds a way to take down a Ty Simpson quarterback who was just flat getting it done. I think this is the best game of the weekend.
I'd love to see it. How many interceptions, I wonder, does Oklahoma have on the season defensively? If they can figure out a way to get one, just get one pick off of
double ties,
slow them down a little bit, and put them in a position where they have to run the football and they can't.
Yeah.
I could see an upset. I could see it.
I don't know if I'm ready to call for it yet.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm ready to call for it, but I
on
could
this
see
game is
6.5.
6.5 on the road.
Yeah.
That means they're saying it's a field goal ball game.
It's at Bryant-Denny. They're 6-0 in the SEC. I'm telling you, whatever I have to do, the bootlegs, the wacko plug-in sticks for $10 a month. I know YouTube TV and ESPN are still at a stalemate. I'm going to watch this football game. This one's going to be good.
If Oklahoma can jump out on them early, they're averaging. Thanks, Google. You give me Oklahoma City Thunder stats. I don't need that. And we're up against a break, so we got to go.
Thanks,
I'll have
Google.
the stat for you on the other side of the break. I promise you, I didn't search Oklahoma City. When we come back, let's hear from Dave Canales about what it was like to get absolutely pounded into the turf at home by a bad Saints team. That's next.
From the Ingles
Well, we don't have a sound effect for this yet, but it is time for a good old-fashioned audio blitz.
Wait a minute. Whoa.
I think we should have like a fast car, like
I've got a lot of
like an Indy
sound
car.
effects. We just might not have the one you're looking for.
Okay, let's find one here. Okay, it's a good old-fashioned. Hang on. I'm gonna intro it.
All right.
I want you to play the sound effect.
Let me pull the intro music down. Hold on.
Pick the right one. A good old-fashioned audio blitz. No. That's a little aggressive.
That's pretty good, though.
A little
all right,
murdery,
hold on.
to be honest.
All right, hold on. Let me see what else I have in here.
Audio blitz.
I'll be back.
No.
I do like Arnold.
Audio
blitz.
Can I get you on that one more time? No, I like that one. All right, one more time.
Audio blitz.
There's no crying in baseball.
That's not. You know what? I'd be okay with.
Wait a minute. Let me see.
that one.
Let me look real quick. I've got a lot up here. I've got some good audio. Hit it again.
Audio blitz.
Hell no. What kind of questions that?
Yes.
You like that?
Yes. Oh, we need some great audio blitz.
Get out of here, man.
Get out of here, man. Yes.
Real quick. Let's run through this. Audio blitz.
Audio blitz. Audio blitz.
I just want to do a header off the top of the press box. Unfortunately, it's too low. It wouldn't kill me.
You remember that?
Oh, that's
You
a
remember
great
that?
one.
All right.
Audio blitz.
You don't ever have to call back.
That's good. That was
Yeah.
Tyler in Spartanburg.
You don't ever have to call back.
Tyler.
You don't ever have to call back.
This one's good too.
Audio blitz.
What's your point?
Jerry, what's your point?
Okay.
One more time.
Audio blitz.
I'll tell you one thing. Tommy Bowden didn't make the same amount of money as you did.
Good Lord. Oh, my God.
Is that not good?
What an upstate legend.
I know.
Tyler from wherever you are, sir.
One more time.
To audio blitz.
I was frustrated and kicked something that I shouldn't have kicked.
Or
Audio blitz.
That's Dewey.
Oh, it's good
What is this one? What is this Dewey?
Oh, happy birthday to you. Oh, happy birthday to you.
Oh, God. We don't need
happy
more to do.
birthday. You're
We
the worst smells. Happy birthday to you. Oh.
I don't know where we all of a
Okay.
sudden. You could drop a bomb on this segment. I think I have that too, by the way. Pretty bad. We have twice today just gotten off the rails.
You know, it's
Cut
okay.
it down, man.
It's a Thursday.
It's
People
a
are getting
Thursday.
People are getting a little tired.
I've got
with
some
their
crazy
workday.
audio,
You
man.
need to shake them out of it a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Audio blitz.
Audio blitz.
I have no. Let me be very clear. I have no idea why I have a chainsaw on the button bar, but I have a chainsaw.
I feel like singing a Jackal song all of a sudden. Well, I'm a lumberjack, baby.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. I think that's still the best.
Okay, let's get to the actual. Don't know what we're gonna choose out of that, but we'll keep workshopping it here, Tolos. Audio blitz. Here we go. Some audio from around the sports world coming directly from the horses' mouths, or some of you might say horses' asses, depending on who our piece of audio is from. Let's go right here locally to the team that just broke my heart on Sunday. Absolutely crapped on it, stomped on it. The Carolina Panthers. Dave Canales was asked about being humbled after losing to the awful Saints on Sunday.
Because every single week you play a group of professionals, regardless of what the record
Oh my
says.
gosh.
These are pros, and there's phenomenal players in every group. And if you don't play to your best, if you don't execute, and you don't play complementary football together, you can lose every week. And you can also win by
Sounds like
playing a
Dabo.
certain way and by taking care of the details and the critical parts of our game. So it's a reminder, and it's a wake-up call. And for a team, now with me, at least for a year and a half, like we have to make sure that we lean on our processes. We lean on the things that we count on to get our bodies right, to get our minds right, so we can be confident and we can play fast on Sundays.
Does he stand behind a fan every time he does his interviews, Cole? He's like, you ever seen the movie Tommy Boy?
Well, yes, I have, and I'll tell you what it is. And it's embarrassing. Diesel, they don't have the audio in that room where he does his post game. He's way up on this stage, and you're way down here in the. It's almost like an auditorium, a small mini auditorium, and the audio's terrible.
Yeah.
I thought about that a couple of weeks ago when I was there. Dave Canales is starting to sound more like Dabo, so it's hard to win.
Here's Dave.
These are pros, and there's phenomenal players in every group, and if you don't.
Here's Tommy Boy.
Oh, the fan.
Yeah.
La 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 Luke.
Pretty close.
Luke, I am your father.
Why does Dave Canales sound like, come on, man? First of all, that is the worst excuse I've ever heard. Oh, there's professionals on the other side of the football.
Yeah.
Guess what? You got professionals too, Dave.
You do.
And they're your pros are better than their pros.
And you were supposed to win that game. I don't want to hear every team in the NFL, they've got they were a one-win team, and that might be the worst franchise right now in the NFL.
Starting a rookie quarterback.
Yeah. Tyler Shuck.
I know Tyler Shuck's 40, but still, it doesn't matter. They were starting a rookie quarterback.
No, it's bad.
And you got beat at home, and you're a better football team. It's
disappointing.
A terrible excuse. Here's Bryce Young talking about his new prized pony, his new puppy, his wide receiver number 1, Tet McMillan.
Execution. We're both two people who look in the mirror, want to be better, want to hit every shot. And
I'm glad that Bryce wants to be better. He's just not getting any better.
And he's not.
Bryce continues.
And, I'm grateful to have a guy like that. One who, as a player he is, but also, has that approach, so just about taking care of opportunities, when they're out there, making sure that, we're taking advantage of them and executing. But again, I have all the confidence in the world in him. Everyone it takes, again, it's all evidence to play cards. They do a great job. So I have all the confidence in the world in us, and, we're going to do whatever it takes.
Do you? Are you sure you have confidence in yourself, Bryce? It doesn't sound like you do.
Let me say this. I am not a Panthers fan, but I kind of do pull for them because, I want them to be good. It's been a long time. Oh, my gosh. It sucks when they're sucking, right? It sucks when they suck. Here's what I will say. I'm not a fan, but I am so tired of the positivity. I want to have a meeting tomorrow with Dave Canales, with Bryce Young, with all the players and say, hey, guys, look, come into this meeting, come into the board. All right, come on, sit down. After they all sit down, I want to say, Diesel, to them, guys, enough of this positivity bullcrap. I'm so sick of it. Dave Canales, you could not find one piece of audio where he's not just Mr. Sunshine and Roses and Rainbows, and Bryce Young's like the same guy. He's always positive. They could lose 48-0, and Bryce Young's going to, well, you know what? We still have a good group of guys, and I work hard, and they work hard, and I trust them, and I love. I want to hear, if I'm a fan, I want to hear the coach walk in there, Rex Ryan, Diesel, and throw his papers, throw his pen, and say, dadgummit, we worked too hard to lose to a one-win Saints team who's not any good. I demand more. These players should demand more, and this is pathetic. This is not what kind of product we want to put on the field. Maybe he says that behind closed doors. Maybe he does. But as a fan, that's what I want to hear. I'm so sick of Mr. Positivity.
Well, this is what happens when you hire the front man of a boy band to be your head football coach. This is what happens when a team has had no positivity whatsoever. You swing all the way back in the other direction, and you just pump smoke up people's skirts in your post-game press conferences. You got your ass kicked. You scored one touchdown on the opening drive of a game that you only scored because they threw a penalty flag. The refs threw a penalty flag on a questionable. Well, no, I take that back. It was a pretty egregious hands to the face. But if they had missed that, you wouldn't have scored at all in the game, and you would have been blanked by a terrible team. Just miss me with it. Dave, grow a pair, would you? Would you grow a pair? And would you, crying out loud, stop cutting in a hard part in your hair? I know that's.
He's a good-looking guy, Diesel, they say.
I know. But the hard part was like 5 years ago, okay? That's a 2019 trend, Dave. Stop doing the hard part. Just part it like a grown-up man. It's fine.
Diesel's upset with his hairstyle.
Well, I got to get upset at something, okay?
That's true. Yeah.
Let's move on here, Cole, to Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams and his Lions are about to take on J.J. McCarthy and their Minnesota Vikings. As a matter of fact, let's start with J.J. He is previewing this big-time Week 11 matchup that everybody's going to be watching of Bears versus Vikings.
We got a great opponent coming into US Bank Stadium this Sunday, obviously on a huge run, 6 wins in a row. And, they're a tremendous football team, tremendous defense. It's going to be a great, division game and, great atmosphere. So can't wait to see the crowd show up. And, we're going to prepare every single day to make sure, we're putting our best selves out there on Sunday. So
translation, tickets aren't selling and we need you to buy yours now.
Kidding.
Bogo, JJ. Yeah. He's also talking here about his hand injury that's kind of hampered him a little bit. People wondering what kind of shape that's in.
How's the hand feeling?
Feels good. Yeah, it feels really good. Getting a lot of treatment in the last few days, and we'll continue to do so, but it's feeling good.
Change how you throw or the way, anything about how you go about things?
I definitely felt it, for sure.
What a dumb question.
Ripped one in there pretty good to Jets and hit a helmet, so, you're going to be feeling it the rest of the way, but there's no excuses at all. Got to find ways to, adapt and make sure the ball gets to the receiver.
Hey, quarterback, does your hand injury affect anything about how you throw it or anything like that? No, it doesn't. It's good. It actually doesn't have. It actually helps, Diesel. It actually helps.
I would ask if J.J. McCarthy is on your fantasy team, Cole, but according to Dan, you never log in and play.
That's true.
So you wouldn't even know if he's on your team.
That's true. And by the way, I am glad you brought this audio blitz up because we have neglected the British. Quite possibly the best play-by-play call. I'm literally sending it to my email right now. It's fantastic.
Okay.
But that's a little bit of a teaser. I mean, I cannot believe we've gotten to Thursday and forget about this one.
All right, let's see the other side or hear from the other side of that quarterback battle. Caleb Williams on a heater, man, 6 in a row. Caleb, what's up?
There are many design runs for me. I'm more of a throwing cue. I just so happen that I can run, and when the time comes that they open up a gap or there's space available for me. I understand that my legs can be a spark or my legs can be a threat. And I also know that D coordinators hate that because they typically account for all other 10 players on the field. And the QB is typically one that just drop backs and throws a rock around.
That's the way it should be with a mobile quarterback in the NFL. You can't put it all on him because eventually you're going to get old, you're going to get slow, you're going to get an ankle twist or something like that. It's going to slow you down. But if you have it set up so that you're not designing quarterback runs, but you allow and you encourage your quarterback to run when the opportunity presents itself, I think that's the key.
You know what, man? I'll say this, and I said this on Monday, Diesel, when you were out. Or was it Monday or Tuesday?
Monday I was out.
Monday
Tuesday we were on vacation.
That's right. I said this on Monday. I have been impressed with Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a guy who's showing a higher yards per attempt, a higher passer rating. It's not elite yet. He's avoiding sacks. He's avoiding pressure better than he did in 2024. He's extending plays, Diesel. His decision-making, I'm telling you, I said it on Monday when you were out. I think this is a good lesson to quarterbacks in the NFL that who you have. What a move it was for Ben Johnson to take this. I know it's a head coaching job and it pays a lot of money, but go to Chicago and all of a sudden in 1 year have Chicago, the Bears, in the conversation of one of the better football teams in the NFL. Now, can that turn into consistency? We'll see, but I've got a hat tip Caleb Williams, man. I really do.
It was also bold of him to go to Chicago where the pizza sucks. Have you ever had
I've been to
Chicago style pizza? It's lasagna in a bread
you got to
bowl.
eat it with a fork,
It's
right?
bogus. It's bogus.
Yeah. I'm with you on that.
No, it's I told you I set my Caleb Williams beef aside, and I have not said
I know.
about
I'm proud
him
of you.
since. You should give me credit.
I do.
That's called growth.
Yeah.
Okay, that is growth.
No, I'm with you on that. Hey, Diesel, I want to throw this one at you. I think this is the best audio you'll ever hear.
Ever.
I love this. So Sunday morning, the Colts and the Falcons played across the pond. And I will say, I love American play-by-play announcers. Don't get me wrong. But my goodness, this call of a Colts touchdown, if you have not heard, where's this rank for you?
Under center now, Daniel Jones has Pittman going in motion, has Jonathan Taylor in the backfield, gives it to Taylor up the middle, gets the yardage needed for the first down, maybe a yard more. He's past the outside, they haven't brought him down, out to 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. Taylor can go all the way here. He's got two blockers. He's going to go all the way. 10, 5, touchdown, Colts. Jonathan Taylor. Unbelievable. And with that, he breaks heads Lions, Indianapolis Colts rushing touchdown record. This man is special indeed, and he's carrying this team to what can now be an 8-2 record.
I'm telling you.
Nice.
Goosebumps. Is that not impressive, Diesel?
I feel like I recognize that guy's voice. I think he swept my chimney.
Yeah,
once.
he may have. I'm telling you, man, like that was one of the best.
Good stuff.
I love that. The British commentary, man. I'm all of a sudden a huge fan.
And the great thing, it wasn't all hype, right? There was information, there was stats, all of it baked in.
The record, I'll tell you this, calling play-by-play and having the record like that off the top of your head, not off the top of your head, but having it close by to where he knew the yardage, he needed the break, got the record. That's impressive.
I think, Cole, is that how you call football?
No, I'm not that good.
Why not?
I'm not that good. He is fantastic.
Wow.
I'm telling and meanwhile, Tony Romo somewhere. I don't know, Jim. You know.
Yeah, they're DTF, Jim. Good Lord.
I don't know, Jim.
I mean, everybody's got different styles, but that's
awesome.
great.
I love that.
That's good, man.
Hard to beat that.
Let's listen to Dan Campbell, head football coach of the Detroit Lions, on his take about why the NFL should not get rid of the tush push.
I mean, I don't. Well, here's why. I'm a purist, man. You take something else out of the game, then we're taking the next thing out of the game. Then you're taking another thing out of the game. Then pretty soon we don't have pads anymore. And then pretty soon you're only playing 30 minutes. And then pretty soon so that's why I don't want to take it out of the game. It's something. A team's got a niche. They found something. They're good at it, and it's for everybody else to stop. And it's unique. And it's physical, and more than anything, I just don't want to take anything else out of the game. I just want to leave the game alone. That's me.
Oh, I'm sorry. He says, stop tweaking. You
That
guys
is
are tweaking
interesting,
too much.
isn't it? I mean, it's interesting perspective.
Yeah.
Because it could be a slippery slope, but I don't know, man. I don't like it. I changed my mind on that whole. You remember I told you that. I don't like it now. Get rid of the tush push. Diesel, when we come back, we talk to the one and only Clay Hendricks, the head football coach of the Furman Paladins. We talk Furman Paladins football next.
fan upstate.
Well, it's time to talk Furman Paladins football, as we do every Thursday at this time with Clay Hendricks, the head football coach of the Furman Paladins. A tough loss for the Furman Paladins over the weekend. Two really good teams in a row playing Mercer and then on Saturday at Chattanooga. Coach, I know it's a tough one, 45-28, where you guys scored 28 points 2 weeks in a row and still came out on the wrong side of things. In your mind, off of these last 2 weeks, is it mainly defense that you guys need to improve on if you want to, possibly end the season on a high note? Is it just the defense right now in your mind?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we played really poorly defensively, I thought, Saturday. Maybe as poorly as we played in the game since I've been here. But, man, we left a lot of points out there, too. And it's funny how the game flipped. We threw a pick six, so they get credited with that one. We had the ball inside the 5 for the half, ended up getting a field goal block. So I don't know. I think it's just there's plenty of blame to go around starting with me. We just got to do a better job, just playing a complete football game. Thought we played really solid in special teams. I mean, we were maybe playing as well as we played offensively in the first half, and then, we throw a pick six to start the second half. And, and then things just, I don't know, we let a couple of plays kind of make a big change in the game. We gave up a couple of explosive plays, and, which has kind of been the story of the year for us. That and some turnovers. We ended up with 3 turnovers, 3 to none, which is hard to beat anybody, when you do that.
Coach, 28 points in a loss. You still did a couple of things right in that ball game. What do you point to that, even though the outcome wasn't the way that you wanted it to be, ended up, being solid positives that you could take into the locker room after the game?
Well, there are a lot of positives. I mean, we've had the ball, those 2 games, you think we scored 28 points in the 2 games each, but we only had the ball for 21 minutes in each game. So it's been, defensively, it's been, the inability to get off the field on third down. And again, the explosives. But we did a bunch of good things, offensively. And I've said it all year, we played 10 football games, and I really felt like until this past Saturday, I think really both sides of the ball, we had done some really good things in about every game. But, you're still looking for that complete football game.
Yeah.
And, I thought really solid. We had a 75-yard kick return. We had another big kick return that set up some points. A lot of good things there, but that's why you play 60 minutes. You got to be able to play at a high level, for 4 quarters. And our guys are continuing to, I think, do the things that we need to do. We talked about preparation. We need to have a great week of prep, and I think we have this week. But at the end of the day, you got there for 3 hours on Saturday, and that's when you have to be able to go put it together. And so that's kind of where our goal's got to be.
Talking to Clay Hendricks, he's the head football coach of the Furman Paladins, joins us every Thursday at this time. Coach, you talked about defense there, improving on defense. When you look at that second quarter, from what Chattanooga did, a 25-yard touchdown, a 66-yard touchdown, and a 47-yard touchdown. The explosive, the big plays, how do you get better on that as a defensive guy when you start fine-tuning this defense and talking with your staff and players about what you want to do to get better? Does that come from generating pass rush up front, or where does it start when you talk about eliminating the big plays?
Well, I don't know. I think each week's a little bit different. We gave up. We had a ball thrown over our head, which shouldn't happen. We got run by, and then another one was probably a 25-yard completion. It should have been they were going to complete it. Should have been a pretty easy tackle, get the guy on the ground, and and it turned into a big play. So it comes back to playing great fundamentals, and we got to tackle well. So I just think it goes back to doing fundamental things that you do well. And, I think there's times where in the secondary, where there's times where we're playing too much off coverage, and our eyes aren't where they need to be. And we bite on something that we shouldn't bite on. And I think a lot of that certainly starts with pass rush. Certainly Joshua Stone King's had a heck of a year. He still leads the country in sacks, but I'll guarantee you he's getting double teamed on every play, which should create opportunities for other guys. and we're just not winning enough of those one-on-ones when we get those opportunities.
Coach, how do you keep Trey heading the game? I mean, he threw for nearly 300 yards. That's a pretty big game for any quarterback. And you said it there. He had a couple of picks, and that kind of hurt you in a big way. But, what's your coaching philosophy with Trey? A lot of coaches, they say some players you can grab them by the face mask and yell in their face, and that lights them up. Others, you got to put your arm around them. So what's the strategy there to keep Trey in it?
Well, I agree with that to an extent. I think each guy's a little different. As when you were a position coach, you kind of learned how to handle each guy. I think the quarterback position is a little bit different. The first, really the one pick was not his fault. The one pick should have been not an easy catch, but it should have been a catch. And a guy goes up with one hand and tips it to one of their guys. So, again, he gets credit with that one. And that really was not him. He really threw a pretty good ball. The first one, you just didn't see the guy on a little screen. We thought was a little safe call. I just think we just got to continue to, just continue to do what we do. I do think this. I do think passing yards, I'm an old offensive line coach, and I do think passing yards are a little bit of an overrated number out there somewhere. In fact, I've even with our guys, Trey's done a pretty good job in that area all year. Evan James, a freshman, has got 50 catches and has had a great year. And, I think if he hadn't missed 3 games, he'd have over 1,000 yards now. So, that's great. We need to run the football better. In fact, I went back and did a little history search this week. I think it was the top maybe 25 games in Furman history passing yards. I think we're 7-18 in those 25 games. So again, it's a little bit, you've heard that old saying about, statistics are for losers, but, so certain things matter. To be a championship football team, you got to be really good in both areas. You got to be balanced. We need to run the ball better. And I think the thing that's just been killing us is just the turnover margin. I think the first 5 games we were 4-1. We had committed 6 turnovers and we got 8. In the last 5 games, we've committed 12 and gotten 2. So that one's not real hard to figure out. And I think of our 18 turnovers, 14 of them came in 4 games.
Well,
Coach, I'll let you figure out which games those were. So I mean, sometimes people make plays to get a turnover, and sometimes they don't. And I just, at the end of the day, I think that turnover margin's one of the biggest stats there are, and then your ability to run and stop the run. And I think it starts there, but you got to do other things well too.
Well, Coach, if you want to go in on a change.org petition to somehow change statistics and take away tipped balls from quarterback interceptions, I'm all in with you. If it was up to you, how would you maybe discern what a quarterback caused interception versus a not quarterback caused interception would be? How would you look at that?
Unfortunately, I don't think the coaches would get to make that decision if somebody's sitting up in a box and doesn't do it for a living. I don't know, but it's like everything else, just like sacks. The offensive lineman always get the credit for the sacks. Well, there's only 5 of those guys, and there's 11 guys on defense, and sometimes the quarterback holds the ball, sometimes he should have thrown it away, sometimes the back didn't do what he's supposed to. There's just kind of all kinds of factors that figure in, and so, I mean, obviously our guy, we tell him when, if you couldn't fault him on the last one, really threw a really good ball. You talking about a 30-yard seam route, and he makes a really good throw, and again, kid goes up with one hand instead of 2, and tips it right to one of their guys. So I think each case getting a little bit different. Just, again, let's get back to controlling what we can control. And, it's easy to sit here and say we got to make better decisions with the football. Again, the defensive tackle intercepted the one that he ran back. And I don't know. I think he saw he couldn't get – I'm not sure he even recognized the screen as much as he just kind of peeled off from the rush. And Trey just never saw him. So, that stuff happens. And even then, we got to be able to bounce back from that, and because at that point, it's still it was a 7-point game, and again, we just got to keep working to get better.
Coach, when you look at the areas that this team needs to get better that you just talked about, I look at a lot of these games this year, and while the score looks lopsided, 45-28, this is a fourth quarter game where Chattanooga on Saturday gets a couple of scores. You guys not able to get on the board. It feels like a lot of these games this year have been decided, either won or lost in the fourth quarter of play. Is there something about the decision-making, the complementary football, the turnover margins in the fourth quarter that you feel like as a coach, for someone that's been doing it as long as you have, an area where you can say, guys, we're just simply not getting it done in the fourth quarter, and here's why?
Well, I don't think it was necessarily the fourth quarter. That was a little bit. You can go back as far as Western Carolina. It was a nothing game. After the first quarter, and then again, I think we committed 3 turnovers in the second quarter. But I think it's more about reacting to adversity.
Gotcha.
And right now, we start eight freshmen or sophomores on defense, and I think that certainly plays a little bit of a part. But just handling adversity, and we had a kid that they had to stop the game for 20 minutes the other day, the first play of the second half. Had to carry him off. He's doing great. I'm not sure how we reacted to that. That's a tough thing to sit. Me as a coach, it was a tough thing to sit there and watch.
Yeah.
We lost a young man a year and a half ago. So I think I'm not sure how we reacted, because at that point it was a 7-point game. But it's just being able to handle adversity. A ball gets thrown over here. Okay, well, let's go play the next series. We turn it over. Okay, let's go play. No different when you do some good stuff. You got to handle success as well too. And I think that's probably the thing that we've got to continue to get better at. Because again, you watch all year, and we've played some really good football. When you go to look at where we were a year ago, after losing all those 41 seniors in 2023. And we're not even close to the same team. We're that much better. We're not where we want to be because we have high expectations. But, again, it's handling the adversity. It's trusting what you've been coached to do. And we got to play with a little more energy. And I think sometimes when you have young guys that are so focused on just trying to do their job, it's a little harder to pull the guy beside you along. And, those are things we just got to continue to get better at.
Talking to Clay Hendricks, head football coach of the Furman Paladins. Chance to close out the season on a strong note with VMI, a team that has, had their struggles over the course of this season outside of just scoreboard, because that's easy stuff to look at and kind of gloss over what's happened in the game. In what ways are you hoping for sort of get-right opportunities against VMI?
Well, the whole focus this week for us is just let's worry about us. And, I tell you what's unique about them. They're a really unique bunch on defense, just schematically. They it's one of those, I've been doing this a long time when I was an offensive line coach. It's like, how do they even call that defense to tell them where to line up? So I think when, it's kind of like preparing for a triple option team, when you hadn't seen that. So they're a little different. So preparation wise, I just told our team, communication on that side of the ball is going to be important, getting the body on the body. And, but I think when you see those kinds of looks, it creates a lot of opportunities for you if you can execute, at a high level. So, I'm looking forward to that. And again, I thought there were some times in the last couple of weeks where we played as well as we played on offense. If we could just clean up some of the mistakes, and defensively, I think gives us a chance to, kind of what they do gives us a chance to attack them a little bit, and I just like to see us do that. Again, I think we've been playing a little bit of this afraid to make mistakes, kind of football, and that needs to change.
Coach, it's senior day Saturday at Paladin Stadium. When you talk about this group of seniors, what makes them special?
Well, I think anytime you talk about a Furman football player or a young man that goes to school at Furman, they're a pretty special young man. I think the fact that I talked the other day, I spoke the other day about just these parents, what they've done to have a young man that can just get admitted to our school and come here and do well, and then actually play football at a high level. They've been part of two NCAA playoff teams, a conference championship team. Just terrific young man. And, I tell you what, they're prepared well. They'll all graduate. I think, senior days are a little different now. You've got guys with extra years, and you've got guys we got a few guys that are walking that say they're coming back next year. We've got a few grad guys. So I think each group's a little bit different, but I think they're incredibly well prepared. I think I would put our graduates up against anybody at any level as far as what they're doing, when they leave this place. And I think I would hope, I take a lot of pride in the fact that, we've Furman football has had a big say in making these guys, hopefully they're going to be, I think they will be great husbands and fathers and community leaders and business leaders. And I really think that's kind of what our place has done for young men.
Yeah, Coach, still a couple of games left to go. 2 more. You got VMI and then Clemson. So I don't want to talk about it as if the season is over, but is there a guy or two on this roster that you could definitely see yourself hiring one day? Put them on your staff.
Oh, I'm sure there are. I hadn't thought that far ahead. One thing I hope they're all smart enough not to go into coaching. I tell you what, we got a guy right now, Hugh Ryan. I don't know if you remember, he was an old Dutch Fork. He was a great player for us, and he's been with us now 2 seasons. And we had we had 3 different guys that year. It's maybe the first few. I mean, it's been a while since we've had that many guys that think they wanted to do the coaching aspect of it. And one of them was Callie Chizik, who was Gene Chizik's son, and Callie was with us a year. Now Callie's a graduate assistant at the University of Missouri. We got another kid, Nikki Kuzemka, who did the same thing, was with us now. Is at James Madison, and then he was stuck with us for 2 years. And he'll be the first guy we'll hire when we get an opportunity, to a full-time role. But he does a lot of big stuff for us now. He works with Tommy Spanger and our safeties and with our special teams. He's got an awfully bright future as a coach. And I don't know. And I think we may have some of those guys, but again, I hope most of them are smart enough to go do something other than coach.
Maybe they'll keep their hair a little bit longer, Coach.
That's right. Coach.
Hey, and in the world today, I mean, it is our AD, we had a department meeting the other day. Jason Donnelly was talking about, they'll write books about what's happened in the last few years in the NCAA, in college athletics. And I said, I think I've lived it through my entire head coaching career. It's been during this time. And I was just looking at the number of things, for I think the other 30 plus years of my coaching career, a big thing was when they changed the signing day, and now that would be nothing. But just every day there seems to be something different going on. So every day's been kind of a new experience here for a few years.
Well, Coach, as always, appreciate the heck out of you. Best of luck Saturday at home in front of your home crowd one more time this year, and we'll talk to you next week.
That'd be great. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Clay Coach Hendricks, the head football coach of the Furman Paladins before the big game against the Keydets.
It's funny what he said there. There's an old Chinese curse, an ancient Chinese curse that says, "May you live in interesting times." And Clay Hendricks is absolutely coaching in interesting times. Speaking of interesting times, Cole, when we come back, this broke a couple of hours ago. Ross Dellinger, phenomenal reporter for Yahoo Sports, is reporting about a big old memo issued by the NCAA Division I Board of Directors telling member schools not to do a big fat thing. We'll talk about that quickly next. it feels like in college football right now, kind of everybody is in a Mexican standoff. Like everybody's got guns pointed at everybody else.
God, you made me hungry all of a sudden.
You want Mexican?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Taco would be great right about now.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
But the NCAA Board of Directors has just sent out a memo to all of its member schools. And the fact that they are having to send out this memo tells me that somebody's already done the bad thing that you're not supposed to do. The memo warns member schools against supporting lawsuits that challenge the 4-season eligibility limit, stating such actions undermine rules approved by the institutions themselves. This follows recent legal actions. Of course, like I was saying, somebody's done it, including a suit by 5 college football players from Vanderbilt, Wisconsin, and other programs seeking a preliminary injunction in U.S. District Court in Tennessee, arguing that the cap violates antitrust laws by restricting earnings and NFL opportunities. So they are saying,
can you translate that, please?
They are saying, hey, all you schools, you already approved these rules. I know you want to back your players because it's going to help you retain them, get transfers, etc. But you cannot back your players against the NCAA in rules that you yourselves already approved.
I get it. And let me ask you this question. I guess to dumb it down one more time, why are they wanting to change them?
Why are they wanting to change them?
Why do they want to change it? Why are they trying to change the rules is what I'm asking.
Why the players want to be able to stay in college longer and earn more NIL money.
Sorry.
Right.
Sorry.
But every rule is set to be challenged. Every rule is being sued. And so now the 4-year eligibility rule is being sued. And these players are trying to find ways to stick around. And so they're saying, and I'm just making up a name here. Hey, Auburn, don't you dare support your senior quarterback who's exhausted his eligibility, who's part of this lawsuit, trying to get more eligibility. Don't support your player against us because you already approved the rules.
I get it. I get that you want more money, but you have to leave. Remember, you didn't come here for the education in the first place. Remember, it was never about that. You've already got your education, so we'll see you. Adios, amigos.
Sounds like
fired up than your group chat
Sorry.
after a blown call. This is Wired to